So Patrick, do we, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You describe it. You describe it.
What?
I do enough talking.
For what?
I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive. But I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to like make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up and he's like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
That was the guy from.
The Palace of Speed. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the virtual Sebring International Raceway for round 13 of season 12 of the Spec-5 World Tour, the final race of the season. My name is Alex Andersen. I'm joined in the commentary booth by Randall McGrew with Robert Schwenkler in our virtual production truck. And what a race we are in for tonight. But first, little bit of information about your track nights. A very famous one, Sebring International Raceway, is a mecca for sports car fans all over the world, having held its famous 12-hour race since 1952. Now supplemented by a 1,000-kilometer race for the World Endurance Championship the day before, Sebring is a veritable feast for endurance racing enthusiasts, and we are having our own little endurance race tonight as Randall. Tonight will be the first time, I believe, in league history for the Spec-5 World Tour that we have had not a 45-minute race, but an hour and a half long race. So this will be a little endurance race in and of itself for these teams.
It's really going to throw a wrench in some people's strategy. They're going to make 2 pit stops tonight. So pit strategy is going to be extra important to see who can save the most fuel and make that second stop as short as possible. I think we'll see some tires even, maybe even some people taking all 4 tires to get through this 90-minute race to be fast. And seen some pretty surprising lap times in practice. Tom Athan was the fastest in the open class, but what is 90 minutes, you don't necessarily need to be the fastest. You just got to survive first and then have a good strategy, and you can find yourself on top of that podium.
Yeah, and speaking of those tires, the abrasive surface of this track doesn't really help with that. This is a very old racetrack, Sebring, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say it hasn't been repaved since 1966. I'm probably horribly off, but it has been a while since this track has seen some fresh asphalt, and these tires and these cars and these drivers are going to suffer the consequences of it if they are not prepared going into this race. And right now, we're looking at the favorite for the Pro Class Championship tonight, the overall championship, and one of only 2 drivers still eligible. That is Mike Dam. And to show you how much of a lead he's built up, let's see if we can pull up the points real fast. The only drivers that are eligible for the championship right now are Mike Dam and Camden Hibbett, and Camden is about 15 points back. So Camden, he has his work cut out for him tonight. He's going to really have to push if he wants to beat Mike Dam for the championship tonight. So Mike Dam goes into this race with a really nice shot at it. However, there's still battles going on behind him. Ronnie Coates there in 4th, trying to chase down Mitchell Peak in 3rd, and Rui Coimbra is there in 5th. He hasn't had the most stellar season, and so far the final race of the season isn't going to start off so well for him, as Mike Dam off there, but Rui Coimbra going to be starting from the back per a penalty. So we will see if he's able to make his way through the field. We might not even see him go out for qualifying here tonight, but there's your rest of the field there. It's looking like a very interesting final race for the Pro Class standings. Randall, why don't you talk us through the open ones?
As it stands right now, Ken Copeland is currently the provisional champion, and he has it clinched. There is no way that anybody's going to catch him. Jose Gonzalez trailing with 511 points. Andrew Kosick with 495. Tom Athan with 411. Andrew Gilliland with 464. And by looking at the cheat sheet provided by the league, there's as many as 7 drivers eligible for that top 3 still. So all the way down to Charles Vaccaro. We could see some big shakeups for the 2nd and 3rd step on the championship podium for the open class tonight.
Yeah, that's incredible to think about with the amount of drivers still eligible for a podium in the Open Class Championship. It's really honestly awesome to think that after 13 races, a lot of hard-fought battles, and a lot of heartbreak for a lot of drivers, it all comes down to one final race to see who gets to take a step on the podium at the end of the season. So it's really cool to think about. But here is your Open Class champion. This is going to be pretty much a Sunday drive for him, I assume. He doesn't really need to push this car that hard, just needs to hang out for about an hour and a half, keep it clean, and bring it home, knowing that he has won the Season 12 Open Class Championship. So great job for Ken Copeland and crew as we watch him head around Bishop. We're going to watch Jerry DiPiero go through Sunset Bend. And why don't we take an onboard lap with Jerry DiPiero as he heads into Sunset Bend. He goes a little bit wide on the entry. Never mind, that's exactly how you take that final corner in this car. And he's going to throw it up into 3rd gear here as he heads down the front straightaway towards turn number 1. He's just going to bring it over to the right side wall, just full throttle from here onto the Chevrolet bridge shortly, and he's actually the first person to complete a lap here with a 2:26.548. We'll see if he can improve it here as he slightly lets off into turn 1, barely to the wheel. Now he's going to crank it down into 3rd gear as he brings it nicely down towards turn number 2, up into 4th gear, and then hard onto the brakes at the 2nd cone there, into 1st gear for the 90-degree left-hand corner that really you need to arc it more than you think. Now, no, this is not Bishop. I was about to call that corner Bishop. That is not Bishop. But he's going to head through the bend now, turn 6, I believe, down towards the turn 7 hairpin. And Jerry will be throwing this car up into, I want to say, 5th gear, and he'll be heading into the best passing opportunity on this racetrack. He's going to stay in 4th gear and hard on the brakes at the 3 cones now. Into 1st gear, best overtaking opportunity right here. It's a tight hairpin with a really narrow exit you have to hit correctly. Can't inhibit, by the way, provisional pole there with a 226.0. And Jerry DiPiero's just full throttle here through these couple of bends, now towards Tower, I believe. And very slow 90-degree corner. You'll brake it about in between the 3 and 2 cones into 1st gear for this 90-degree corner. Then through Bishop, and no, I'm pretty sure Bishop is. I keep remembering Bishop. I'm just not sure where on the track it is. But full throttle from here towards this corner. Will brake it about the 2 down into 2nd gear. Get it nice. Get it pointed in the right direction. Oh, he's off track just a little bit. Sent it in there a bit too hard. Now he'll head towards Bishop. I apologize. Now I think I've got it right. Throw it up into 4th gear for this full throttle left-hand bend. And then it'll be down into 3rd gear, I want to say, for this little short corner to the right. He goes into 2nd gear for it. And that corner's a lot tighter than it seems. You have to be really careful for it. He goes out wide for the Le Mans corner down onto the Ullman straight. And this is another good passing opportunity right here with the slipstream properties on these cars. And it's called Sunset Bend because you're driving straight towards the sun down this straightaway. This is why the last corner has the name that it does. And Jerry DiPiero going to start to brake slightly just past the 1, throw it down into 2nd gear, really wide entry, get it nice and tight through the center, full throttle from here on out, up into 3rd gear, and that completes your 2.5 minute long lap at Sebring International Raceway in these cars. So it's a very long, challenging lap for these drivers, and just no mistakes is going to be the question for a lot of these drivers.
As you saw there on Jerry's lap as he drove towards Sunset Bend, that sun's getting low in the sky, and it's only going to get lower as the race goes on. So that sun's going to be glaring right into the driver's eyes until it finally sets, and it may actually set before the end of this race. So we may finish this race under the lights.
Yeah, and it would be just like a Sebring 12-hour then, wouldn't it? Starting at least somewhat in the day and finishing at night for these drivers. About halfway through qualifying, and so far Mike Dam, the current points leader for the pro class on a provisional pole. Cameron Hibbett still trying to improve, only a little bit behind him there, just over 2/10, but still 2/10 is a pretty big gap for these cars, and the slipstream is just going to help Cameron Hibbett maintain that spot. But it's an hour and a half long race as Mike Dam improves even more there. 2:25.487, that's the new bar for these drivers, and still it's gonna be a long race for these drivers. So like you mentioned earlier, Randall, speed isn't necessarily completely key here.
And speaking of speed, one really quick driver that has yet to set a time, John Allen, is in the field, and we'll see if he sets a time or if he decides to start from the back. He was the quickest overall in practice. He may just be giving himself a challenge to try to drive from the back over 90 minutes. But if he does set a quality time and starts with these drivers, he could be playing spoiler here in the championship.
John Allen is a name I don't think I've heard, so new driver to the field, I guess. And fastest in practice, yeah, so he could very well be a championship spoiler. We might see him take the win away from one of the championship contenders. Here's Tom Athan. He was fastest in the open class for practice, like you mentioned earlier, Randall, but currently about 3 spots behind Jerry DiPiero there. About I want to say under 3/10 the difference between Tom Athan and Jerry DiPiero's laps at a moment. Jerry having run a 2:26.548 and Tom Athan having run a 2:26.828. So Tom Athan going to send it into the final corner. We'll see if he can improve now as he heads out of Sunset Bend down the front straightaway. You can just see how much these cars jump with how old and abrasive this surface is. It's really a challenge, one of the most challenging circuits in the world. The real life drivers compare this track to be just as enduring as the 24 hours of Daytona, that being the 12 hours of Sebring. So half the distance, still just as difficult to complete.
Right now in the championship, I've been given a cheat sheet by the league that I don't completely trust that with a 15-point lead and they're giving 1 point per position or 1 point difference per position, Mike Dam is in a really good spot to bring home this championship. He just needs to have a nice, clean race, not fight with anybody, don't take any heavy damage, and it should be a pretty good evening for him. Right now, both drivers' largest drop is 71 points. So if either of them finishes 9th or lower, they will effectively still score 71 points. But I don't expect either of those drivers to be in 9th or lower.
Yeah, definitely not, unless, of course, we see some incidents throughout the race. We see some incidents. However, I think that might be the only way Mike Dam could lose the championship if he gets hit and ends up having to retire from the race and Camden Hibbett scores as many points as he can. I think that's the only way that Camden Hibbett could walk away victorious from Sebring tonight. Otherwise, I think it's just going to be Mike Dam all the way. Just needs to have a clean race as Ray Lombardi up to 6th there with a 2:26.2. This is John Allen. He heads up to 3rd immediately there with a 2:25.9. And he will have a couple more laps to try and get himself up there. He actually probably will only have time for one more lap, so it's all or nothing here for John Allen. Very fast new driver to the series. We'll see if he can grab a pole tonight from Sebring as he heads through turn 2.
That was his first flying lap, and he was already into the 25s. Everybody else was in the 26s on their first lap, so I expect to see an absolute scorcher out of him this lap. And you're right, he'll only have time to get this one more lap in, as we're looking here at Sean Ruiz, who is on his 3rd lap and is gonna be very, very close to being able to set a 4th lap. He's got about 10 seconds to get to the line now, and it looks like he'll have just enough time as long as he's quick. 2:27 at the line. So as long as he's under 2:27, he has time to get another lap in. This is going to be an interesting race. They're limited to 45% of the fuel tank for capacity, which allows them about 14 laps of fuel. And we're looking at a 36-lap race, I believe. So we'll see that first pit window open somewhere around lap 7. But you really want to stretch that first fuel run out as much as you can. And then that second pit window will open if you pit at the end of the first one around lap 22. But I can see some guys really going for some fuel saving here and trying to make that second stop as absolutely short as possible, and maybe even stretch that out a little bit and not have to take very much fuel at all.
Yeah, they could try and stretch out the fuel, or they could try and make their stints as short as possible. Just try and get new tires on, go as fast as they can. There's really just so many different strategies that could play into this race, and it's going to be a pretty experimental race. Like we mentioned, this is the first hour-and-a-half race in league history, if I am correct. So it's going to be a pretty interesting show to see what these drivers decide to do in unknown conditions. And in unknown conditions, we've seen these drivers pull out pretty much anything in order to win the race, especially in races or tracks we haven't been to this season. Especially going to tracks we haven't been to before this season, like Tsukuba 1000, which was a very interesting race. Monza Combined, that was also a very interesting one. Le Mans, I don't think we've ever been to Le Mans before this season, so very interesting races and drivers excelling in unknown conditions, and we're going to have to see that tonight as we race into the night here from Sebring, pretty much setting the sun on the season, if you will. From Sebring tonight, and it's going to be a really, really interesting show to watch. We just have to see how this strategy plays out. We've just got 15 seconds left in qualifying. We'll see if Sean Ruiz can improve on his lap as he heads through Sunset Bend. Oh, he's sideways. He's almost, no, there he goes around. He had it saved and ended up overcorrecting, and here's Lee Martin. Looks like he's not going to get enough time to set another lap. He'll have to settle for 21st, and Randall, why don't you take us through the starting grid tonight from Sebring International Raceway?
Mike Dam is your pole sitter with a 2:25.487 with Camden Hibbett, his championship rival, there alongside of him, who was 3.5 tenths slower. John Allen did not end up setting a second lap time. It will be starting in P3. Eugenio Pulici manages to put in a really fast one, starting 4th. Ronnie Coates, the guy you want to watch for your pit strategy, is starting P5. We have, it looks to be an unclassified Zach Burke, and I'm going to guess that he's pro class on P6. Mitchell Peak in 7th, Ray Lombardi in 8th, Otis Adams Jr. in 9th, Michael Coates in 10th, Sean Hayes starting P11, Jordy Fike in 12th. Jerry DiPiero sets your open class pole time 1 second behind the overall pole position. Tom Athan is going to be in 14th, Andy Kostick in 15th, Orlando Harrell 16th, Brian Zabelski is starting P17, Ken Copeland, your provisional open class champion, starting P18, Andrew Gilliland in 19th, Paulo Coimbra starting in 20th, Charles Vaccaro in 21st, Lee Martin starting 22nd, Rui Coimbra did not set a lap time, will be starting from the pits, is shown as P23, and Sean Ruiz will be bringing up shotgun on the field. Will be 24th, and Brennan Huron will be 25th and last on the grid.
It's been a while since I've seen Brennan Horan show up for one of these races, but looks like he might be showing up for one final race here in Season 12 of the Spec-5 World Tour. As drivers start to take to the grid, we've got one whole pace lap to start to talk about this race before it gets completely underway, and it's going to be a very interesting one. As the pace car pulls off, we've got cars rolling here for the final race of the season from Sebring International Raceways. Everybody starts to pull off the grid for one final time tonight, and what a season it has been. So many different stories and so many different events that we've been able to go through, and it's been such a great season to cover. And it looks like, according to the notes we have, it's a sunset to night race, and the final 30 minutes of the race will be a night race as we see Lee Martin in the pit. So it looks like they'll be racing in these daytime conditions, or at least probably sunset conditions, for about an hour, and then for the final 30 minutes it will go into nighttime conditions. So single file for the pace lap, and they will go double file down the Almond Straight. So we just have to see what happens here tonight. Very experimental race for the final race of the season, and it is going to be a great one at that.
The good thing about a long pace lap like this for a car like the MX-5, where tire temperatures can be very sensitive, especially at the beginning of the race, is you have plenty of time to put a little bit of heat in those tires so that you don't start on those frigid ice cold tires. Right now, track temperature 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That should give them enough heat for grip, but as that sun goes down, we'll also see that track temperature start to go down. And if anybody takes tires on any of their stops, they could be bit by that cold tire bug. They're coming up to turns 2 and 3, possibly even worse if they get on some of those curbs. And as that track temperature goes down, there will be a lot less grip available early in the stint. And as they get the tire temperatures built up, we'll be seeing some absolutely blistering times.
Yeah, and speaking of those tires, it's going to make a lot of these corners sketchy on this first lap, especially the hairpin turn 1 and sunset bend. Turn 1 obviously being an almost flat out bend to the left. You just have to try and keep the car clean through there, and then the hairpin, cold tires through there, cold brakes, you end up hitting the brakes and it locks up. All of a sudden you're going straight through that corner instead of actually making it, and you're down in last place, and you can't really do much then. And also sunset on this first lap, the sunset bend, the final corner of the racetrack. It's one of the most important exits, and it's also a critical corner on this first lap, because if you make a mistake in sunset bend, I know I've done it in the Sebring 12 hour, which is a very different race, but still same track, cold tires, cold brakes, you go in there on this first lap, and all of a sudden the car just oversteers, and then there's just not much you can do there. You either spin out or overcorrect into the wall, and now the field going to double file up down the Almond Straight. As you see all the drivers that have stuck with us for this season head down this straightaway for one final calm before the storm. Charles Vaccaro rounding out the field back there as everybody has caught up. We get ready to go racing one final time from Sebring.
And the last time that this series was here, we had a photo finish at the line, 3 wide. I wonder if we'll see the same thing again tonight.
Yeah, and in that race, that would have been just another lap down the front straightaway, so we'll see what happens. First hour and a half race of the Spec-5 World Tour, and it's the final race of Season 12. So for the final time, the iRacing safety car going to dive into the safety of the pit lane, and now it is all up to the drivers. The green flag is out, and we are racing from Sebring for one final time this season. Mike Dam with a pretty good jump. Camden Hibbett going to match it, though, on the outside. John Allen already trying to pull something there. Back from third, tried to get it 3 wide, decided not to, couldn't get anything done. Camden Hibbett trying to make it stick around the outside, got a nice entry, but still, it's going to be Mike Dam leading the races, still 2x2 pretty much throughout the entire field behind third. Almost contact there behind him between, I thought that was Eugenio Polici and Zach Burke there going into turn number 2. So far, everybody keeps it nice and clean now as we head through the bend for the first time tonight. Very clean start for this race.
I was listening in on the drivers' meeting, and they were preaching that it was a 90-minute race and to be patient, and it looked like everybody was very patient. We didn't see anybody go 3 or 4 wide into turn 1 like you normally would in a race like this. So the drivers showing a lot of patience. They know there's a lot of race to go, and you can't win at turn 1, but you can certainly lose it.
For sure, and it looks like a lot of drivers took that to heart, as already a gap starting to form between third and fourth between John Allen and Eugenio Polici. So if they want a shot at this as the race goes on, they might need to close that down. But, I mean, you really don't want to push these tires super early, as we know with the abrasive surface of Sebring, it can really wear the car down, and all of a sudden, you're just halfway through the first stint, and the car just won't comply with anything you're trying to do to it. But Eugenio Polici has already gotten that group of cars back into slipstream range of the top 3. So, currently the 2 championship eligibles in Mike Dam and Camden Hibbett leading the race, as Jerry DiPiero still leads the open class. However, Tom Athan got a nice jump there on the start of that race, got around a couple cars, or actually no, I think Jerry DiPiero just lost a couple spots there, and Tom Athan was able to get up right behind him there for the open class. So we'll see if that battle escalates anytime soon. Here's Otis Adams Jr., who's up 1 spot since the race has started. Ahead of Ray Lombardi, right now behind Mitchell Peak. We'll see if anybody decides to make a move on the opening lap into Sunset Bend. It looks like Camden Hibbett's going to try it. He'll get his nose out front there, up at the front of this field. And as they head into Sunset Bend, we'll see. It looks like, according to the intervals, Camden Hibbett's already clear, and it looks like, yes, he is. As John Allen went with a really wide arc there, still looking at Otis Adams Jr. running back here in 8th. And yeah, there it is. Looks like Camden Hibbett still leading, and according to work from our producer, we have lost control of the overlays. They have gone rogue, so we'll see if we can get a fix for you guys soon.
The rogue overlays notwithstanding, so far a very clean race. We're not seeing many people go for any moves here early. Probably waiting to get some tire temp in as we stay on board here with Otis Adams Jr. from hashtag not a team, as he's running right now in 8th place. Plenty of time to make up some spots. We see a move there on Ronnie Coates, pulled off by Zach Burke to get clear of him and up into P5. Now knocking on the back door of Eugenio Polici. Right now, no gaps, no breakaways have formed yet, so this could be a pretty interesting. As long as they stay clean, all these drivers in this lead pack have a very, very good chance to win this race. And speaking of winning this race, right now we see a bit of a thrust and a parry and a bit of a riposte there from Eugenio Polici, trying to make a late move to block there, but doesn't get it done. But right now, Camden Hibbett has taken over the lead of this race.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but the front end of both Otis Adams Jr. and Zach Burke's cars looks a little bit crumpled there. You can see both cars going into that corner. And it looks like, maybe just a little bit of front end damage. It doesn't look like it'd be much to affect the cars at all, but you can see they're just a little bit crumpled. You can see Zach Burke's car there and Otis Adams Jr. car there. But it looks like we have regained control of the overlays for the time being, as we've just switched to Mitchell Peak, as Robert Schwenkler having a little bit of technical difficulties down in the production truck. And as we look at Mitchell Peak here, one of the best drivers we've had this season, he just has not been able to get the results to be close enough to be championship eligible. Here's Orlando Harrell. He's been solidly fast in the open class all season. Looks like just hasn't had the best of luck go his way. And just as we swap to him, he eats the curb there going into Le Mans there. He ran a little bit wide.
Yeah, and we see it now, a bit of a breakup here in the open class drivers. And I'm seeing on my timing screen that Andy Kosick may have had an incident and probably caused this gap to form. You mentioned the front end damage on a few drivers. And we saw this last week at VIR. I think most of that comes as a result of some bump drafting. So probably some bump drafting happening down the Ullman Straight, causing a little bit of superficial damage to the front. Shouldn't really affect their top end too much, though.
Yeah, as it looks like it's just slight damage to the front bumpers. It looks like they just went 3 wide into turn number 1 ahead of them. That might have been for the open class lead between Tom Athan, Jerry DiPiero, and Zach Burke, who is surprisingly down in 14th place after just having been up running with the pro class leaders, excuse me. So not sure what happened to him. It just looks like he lost a bunch of spots there. Now he's down racing with the open class drivers as Ken Copeland tails that field. Orlando Harrell trying to catch up to him now as there's a battle for the open class lead going on within that pack between Tom Athan and Jerry DiPiero. You can see them going into the hairpin there. Zach Burke eager to get his spots back, though. He'll make a nice dive bomb move under Tom Athan into the turn 7 hairpin there. And looks like he'll be able to keep that spot. And now Ken Copeland going to try and get around him. Mike Dam goes back to the point there at the front of the field, judging off of the timing tower. So still, it's Mike Dam with the lead again, and Jerry DiPiero still leading this open class. However, Tom Athan right on his tail at this point as Zach Burke now around him to try and catch it back up to the pro class pack there.
Now, you see on the timing screen that Zach Burke had a big off track, and you have to wonder if maybe he had a little bit of help, but that is why he's lost so much time. Probably, if I had to guess, it would be the exit of turn 1. That's a really popular place for drivers to go off track and lose a bunch of spots. So he was only off track for about a second and a half, but that would really kill your momentum and make you vulnerable to being passed by a lot of cars, especially at the beginning of a race when everything's still really tight. Mike Dam is now back in the lead, and he's got about a half second over Camden Hibbett. So we'll keep an eye on that pair. I suspect that they'll be swapping back and forth a lot during this race. And right now, John Allen probably just sitting there and saving a lot of fuel.
Yeah, definitely. It's that third spot, usually the best spot in the back to save fuel. And John Allen, like you mentioned there, Randall, could be thinking of the long game here, saving fuel. But there are just so many strategies that can go into this race. We're already almost 10 minutes in, about 3/4 of 10 minutes, as we're just about at the 7.5 mark. So almost 10 minutes into this race is I thought I just heard some contact, or at least somebody.
You're absolutely right.
Barrier.
You're absolutely right. There was some heavy contact, and I've
Might have
seen
been
on
Andrew
the timing
Gilliland.
screen that it was Andrew Gilliland. You're right.
Yes, he's now into the pits. So all I know is I just heard some contact going into the final corner. Here is Andrew Gilliland running behind Rui and Paulo Coimbra down this back straightaway. We're getting slow motion right now of them going down here. So, oh, all right, and we're back to live now. Is Charles Vaccaro we're looking at running 19th overall. Camden Hibbett back to the point there up front. It looks like they're swapping back and forth going into what I assume is the hairpin. Mike Dam going to be able to get that move. And Charles Vaccaro here just running in a 4-car pack as Rui Coimbra still has made up a lot of spots, but probably not as many as he would have liked in the final race of the season.
You see Ken Copeland there rejoining from the access road. He had a big off track there at the hairpin and lost a lot of spots. Doesn't really matter much to him. He still has the championship locked up, though he still wants to finish as high as he can. Not going to have a big impact on his season, but we see him having an issue there and going off track and rejoining safely.
Yeah, he still might be able to get up and fight for the leaders of the open class, though. He's only about 2 seconds back, and he does have a lot of speed in that number 15 car, so I think he'll still be able to get back up there, fight for the open class lead there, as he is, yeah, there you can see the gap. It's not by much. I think he should be able to make that up now, as we're just shy of 10 minutes into this race, and already there's been no shortage of action here, as we could see Charles Vaccaro make a move on Paulo Coimbra there. As you see Paulo Coimbra using his windshield wipers, practicing for when rain gets added to the iRacing service. As they head through Le Mans, Charles Vaccaro could try and make a move here, as he got a really nice run, and he doesn't even have a choice there. Easy move to the inside to take that spot away, as Paulo Coimbra went a little bit wide there and ended up catching some grass on the exit of Le Mans down the Ullman Straight.
You see, Paulo runs wide there, also falls victim to Brian Zabelski, who's going to get that spot as well. And now we're going to see Charles try to drive away and run down Rui and follow Rui. Rui's already up to P17, so he's made good on his pit start and is now working his way through the field. We could easily see Rui in the top 10 by the end of 90 minutes.
I definitely would not be shocked. I don't know if a win is still in the question for him, but top 10, absolutely. He's got a lot of pace right now in that number 78 car, trying to chase down some of those open class cars ahead of him, as Ken Copeland has already drawn back within slipstream range of the open class leaders. So he will be able to live to fight another day, as he's within drafting range. He'll be able to catch up and start fighting them if he wants to, but I reckon he might try and save a little bit of fuel here, try and save these tires and save them for the long game, because my question is, I know they usually don't do this in this series, but will they double stint tires to try and spend a little bit less time in the pits? So Charles Vaccaro pretty wide there. He'll end up losing spots. Now we're back to the leaders as Camden Hibbett leads a long train of cars. Look at how far back that goes. This is an 11-car pack, and you'll see all of them heading through that series of corners. Very big lead pack here, and they're all just running within a couple seconds of each other, which is absolutely insane to think about, and it's just one of the incredible things about this series with how many cars are able to run within 2/10 of each other, and just absolutely insane to watch action here. As Camden Hibbett leads Mike Dam, they've pretty much just been these two up at the front swapping for the lead over and over again. We might see that again here down the Almond Straight, as these two pretty much just swapping the lead back and forth every lap, but now Camden Hibbett with the upper hand.
You see there lurking back in fourth place, now making a move for third place, which is a little shocking. Ronnie Coates showing a little bit of aggression. He's another one of those drivers that's really good at fuel saving and obviously knows his pit strategy. Going to take that spot away from John Allen, takes the inside line. He's going to have a bit of a choked off exit here. John Allen's going to have the run on the outside and probably going to keep that spot, as though, it looks like he might have to lift there a little bit on exit. But he still has a good run. He's going to get clear of Ronnie Coates. We see Mike Dam squeeze right up to the bumper. Camden Hibbett show his nose as they approach turn one and then fall back in line.
Yeah, and looks like they're just kind of just bump drafting each other down these straights, not racing too hard. Speaking of racing hard, here goes Tom Athan trying to make a move around the outside of Jerry DiPiero. Very close through turn number one, but Tom Athan with the nice run through turn number one. He'll be able to surge ahead. Ken Copeland almost was able to make a move as well. They're third in the open class, 15th overall, as Tom Athan, your new open class leader. Jerry DiPiero still right with him though, and this will definitely be a fight that goes on all race between these two open class drivers. It's just going to be a fight between the entire field at this point, but I reckon after that first pit stop, I think my best guess for when the pack starts to really split up and we get maybe only 2 or 3 car packs throughout the entire field, I think that'll be 10 to 15 minutes after the first pit stop. That's my guess.
We're looking at Zach Burke with that open class fight happening behind him, and if you look just past that open class fight, you're going to see Rui Coimbra closing quickly. Every time those open class drivers start fighting with each other, Rui just closes in that much faster, and he sees 4 easy spots available for him. He's just got to work his way through them.
Yeah, and it's going to be a difficult fight to get back up into the main pack of the pro class for Rui Coimbra, as currently he's about a second and a half back from that group of open class cars, and then once he gets around all those open class cars, it's 5 seconds up to Zach Burke, who is just over a second back from the lead pack. So overall, probably about 8 seconds of time between Rui Coimbra and the pro class pack. So it's going to be a while before he gets up there. He definitely probably has the pace to do it, though, as we're looking at Sean Ruiz trying to chase down Paulo Coimbra. This is for 19th, back up to the main pack, which look at that convoy down the Almond Straight. It's absolutely insane. All those cars nose to tail heading down this straight, and Mike Dam still not trying to get anything done into the final corner. John Allen takes a really wide arc there, goes over that white line before turning the car in. Mike Dam on the run, he'll try and take the lead down the front straightaway as Camden Hibbett got really close to the tire barriers. Still dead even between the two championship contenders down the front straightaway. Mike Dam with his nose out front as they head into turn number 1. However, Camden Hibbett has the preferred line here as they turn into turn number 1. Camden Hibbett going to be able to maintain the lead. Mike Dam with a nice run on the exit, though. He could try something into turn 2 if he wants to. Looks like he's going to lip there, let Camden Hibbett maintain the lead as Rui Coimbra flying out here right now, just at the fastest lap of the race with a 2:25.394. So he is absolutely flying out there right now.
That's great for Rui. He's going to have a lot of speed and try to close up to this lead pack. The problem for him is that he's not going to be able to save much fuel. So his pit strategy could be the thing that keeps him from rejoining this lead pack ultimately at the end of this race. And I suspect after that first stop, we probably won't have 11 cars in this pack anymore.
Yeah, I reckon maybe about 4 or 5, judging off how even they're running right now, but it may be less than that. We've seen packs split up a lot through pit stops in this series, and I think we're about to see that once more, and except this time we'll see it twice over after these drivers make that second pit stop. So Randall, I know they only have about 45% fuel, and I know it'll be about 2 pit stops, so they'll end up pitting around the half-hour mark and then around the hour mark. When do you think would be the optimal time to pit?
Well, for this first pit stop, you want to stretch it out as long as possible. The pit window should be open until lap 14. If some of these drivers can save enough fuel, they may be able to stretch it out for a 15th lap. And if you're able to do that, that's what I would try to do. But we should see most of them come in around lap 13 or 14. I think short pitting this first stint probably be detrimental to your race and make you lose contact with this pack.
Yeah, and for that second stop, honestly, just off the top of my head, I think you want to, like you mentioned, Randall, you want to stretch out the first stint, try and stick with the leaders, maintain your pace, and then for the second stint, I think that's really where the opportunities open up for any sort of pit strategy, whether you want to pit smack dab in the middle, try and stretch out the stint again, or if you want to pit early, try and undercut the field. Really, I think that second stop is where the strategies are going to start to open up for these drivers, but we will see what happens as they currently make their way down the front straightaway back towards turn number 1. Here comes John Allen. It looks like Mike Dam will let him out of that spot. Almost taps Camden Hibbett there. He's going to try and get a 2-for-1 special here into turn number 1. Down towards turn number 2 now. He's got a bit of a run there, not completely alongside Camden Hibbett, but just enough to be able to take the lead away for the first time tonight. Now side by side for second, Mike Dam going to be able to take that spot away from Camden Hibbett, and in 2 corners, Camden Hibbett goes from the lead to third place, and looks like he's already hungry to maybe try and get that spot back from Mike Dam as they head towards the hairpin, as he's got a nice run here. Ronnie Coates going to beat him to the punch almost, but no, Camden Hibbett's going to try and dive to the inside here through the hairpin now, as it looks like Mike Dam is going to let him at that spot.
I think Camden might be seeing a red a little bit here. It looked like a little bit of contact there to the left rear corner from John Allen on that massive send into turn 1. He was carrying a lot of speed there. We saw a little bit of wiggle there out of Camden Hibbett, so I think there was a bit of a touch, or as Sebastian Vettel would say, a bit of touchy. And John Allen now back has managed to get that lead and stretched it out a little bit here, 0.6 right now, but that will close right back up once they get to the straightaway.
Yeah, and I reckon that pretty much the straightaways are always what keep these cars together, but I think it's even more important tonight with how long this track is and how many corners you have to really slow down for. But the headlights on for these drivers now as we race into the night from Sebring International Raceway, and those headlights are only going to get brighter as this race goes on. However, down the Allman straight once more, Camden Hibbett could try and get the lead back here if he wants to. He has a decent run out of the corner, and that slipstream is going to really help him close up the gap. You can see it closing already up on the timing towers. Camden Hibbett on the back bumper, looks like going to push him down the straightaway, and we have 3 cars bump drafting each other down the straight. Looks like Camden Hibbett backs off a little bit. Same thing with Mike Dam as they head into Sunset Bend once more. Oh, sideways, the leader sideways, John Allen. He got a little bit loose there. It was a heck of a save from him, though. You could see the tire marks coming out from under his cars. Wow, what a save from John Allen to keep that car straight and keep it in one piece. Now, as Ronnie Coates going to try and go for third here, he has his nose out front of Camden Hibbett into turn number 1, and it looks like he might try and stretch it to the inside of Mike Dam, and he will get there as they head out of turn number 1 and towards turn number 2. Ronnie Coates gonna have to be late on the brakes here, and it looks like he's just gonna have to relinquish that spot from Mike Dam as Mike Dam really arcs that corner in to stay in front.
All right, and I have some unfortunate news to pass along to our viewers. Our producer is still experiencing some technical difficulty, and he's going to have to restart some things. So we will be stepping away from the broadcast very, very briefly, and I'll be taking copious notes to keep you informed on what happens. And welcome back to the 90-minute race at Sebring. And we've had a few little developments. We've seen some fighting between Jerry DiPiero and Tom Athan. Tom Athan has fallen back a few spaces. And Zach Burke has rejoined this lead pack and made up a couple spots, now up to 9th. But up front, everybody's pretty much held station, trying to just click off some laps. And as we rejoin the action, we're on with that lead pack right now. Camden Hibbett sitting in 4th place.
Yeah, and currently as they head towards Tower, I believe that corner is called, could be Collier, forget these corner names. John Allen still your leader. Ronnie Coates still up into 3rd as the pack start to spread out just a little bit more spread out than it was when we left you for a couple of minutes there. As we look at Michael Coates currently running in P7 behind Eugenio Pellicci, and Michael, he's been one of the fastest drivers all season. It just seems that he hasn't been able to get the stars to align correctly, as he's had a great season thus far, but just has not been able to get it all to sort itself out to be up in the fight for the championship. Still a solid season for Michael Coates. He'll just have to try and gear up for season 14 and try and get this team as good as it can be for the next 14. And Sean Ruiz actually just got around Brian Zabelski. This is for 18th, and looks like probably an easy move there. Is just everybody hanging out back here so far, just kind of cruising around for the first part of this race. We're still not up to the 30-minute mark yet, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Ronnie Coates just got around Camden Hibbett as Zach Burke now sets the fastest lap there with a 2:25.3. And yes, it looks like Ronnie Coates has gotten around Camden Hibbett for 2nd, and Mike Dam falling back to 4th. I think that's the lowest he's been all race.
And we see also there was a big moment for Charles Vaccaro, who was off track for like nearly 14 seconds. We saw he's really fallen off the back of that open class battle. Ronnie Coates up to 2nd now with a bit of a gap up to John Allen. We'll see that close down. And we're going to jump to the replay now. We're going to see what happened with Charles Vaccaro as he's coming through the windy bit in the middle of this lap. And just, did he get a little help there maybe? That seems like he got a little bit of oversteer. Maybe had to check up and got a little bit of a touch there and into the tire barrier.
He might have gotten a little bit of help. Could have been some net code there between those two cars. He just looks like pretty close there. Might have just gotten loose either way. But as they head through Tower, now we're looking at Jerry DiPiero. This is the fight for the open class lead, and it was originally going on between Jerry DiPiero and Tom Athan, but Ken Copeland recently took this spot away from both of them. So Ken Copeland, the new leader for the open class, and it looks like he's planning to stay up there, trying to get one more win before the season closes out in the open class.
Tom Athan's going to have to really work to close that gap up. Ken's being really fast here, and he's trying to stay in contact there with Rui Coimbra and let Rui pull him forward. Rui now kind of looking good to try to close down that gap to Ray Lombardi to join that lead pack. Right now it's at 8 seconds, but we're seeing it get smaller and smaller as laps go by.
It could be a while before he gets up there, though. As we're looking at Zach Burke, just took the fastest lap of the race last time by as they head into Sunset Bend. It's been a solid day for Zach Burke. He was originally running in the top 5, and then he got knocked out of this lead pack from some incidents there. As we've already got a diver into the pits early, as Mitchell Peak and Jordy Fike both gonna head into the pit lane. I think Ray Lombardi headed into the pits as well. So 3 cars already into the pits. So we'll see if these drivers try to stretch it out all the way side by side in front of Zach Burke here between Eugenio Polici and Michael Coates, and they're 2x2 for the lead up there as well, as Ronnie Coates is taking it away from John Allen side by side between the championship contenders of Camden Hibbett and Mike Damon. They just lost a lot of time due to fighting there. Ronnie Coates with a decent gap at the moment, and that just drew this main pack a lot closer together after all of that battling. And Tom Athan, the first of the 4 open class contenders really up there for the win. He's in the pits now, as Sean Ruiz in there as well, as Mitchell Peak, Ray Lombardi, and Jordy Fike heading out of the pits at the moment, as leaders making their way through turn number 7.
And we've seen that happen twice now, first with John Allen and then with Ronnie Coates. It seemed like they flip a switch, and then suddenly they went from laying back and saving fuel to being full aggression and trying to fight for the lead. So you have to think that those 2 drivers have already hit their fuel number for this stint. Know they're not going to be able to get an extra lap out of it beyond what they've already saved, and are just turning on the afterburners now, try to lead as much as possible and get as much track position as they can before the first stop.
Yeah, and that's probably the objective for a lot of these drivers, more specifically Zach Burke. After falling back, he's made his way back up into the top 5, so Zach Burke with a really solid comeback, as Eugenio Polici riding the back bumper of Michael Coates there. Here's Zach Burke heading through Bishop and now towards Le Mans. Very solid recovery race from Zach Burke, and it'll put him in contention for the win here if he can just make a couple more spots and have some solid pit stops.
And we've seen Eugenio Polici slowly falling down this lead pack, and now there's a bit of a gap ahead of him up to a second now. You have to think that maybe he's overdriven those tires and scrubbed the good off of them, and now struggling. We'll probably see him take at least 2 tires on this first stop.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to mention, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't completely explain what I was talking about, was if drivers decide to double stint their tires, Zach Burke going to be the first of the front runners to come into the pits. Sean Hayes in the pits as well. Excuse me, not first, the front runner. First of the front runners, one of the first cars in that pack to come into the pits, as he is going to head into the pits all by himself, only with Sean Hayes for company. So we'll see if he can maintain speed and catch up. But one thing I do want to mention, and I'm not sure if it would be a valid strategy, but it might be worth a shot if drivers decide to double stint their tires like you would, say, in an endurance race in real life. If they decide to double stint their tires, it could mean a shorter pit stop, but they would really be struggling for grip throughout the second portion of the race until they get to the second pit stop. Randall, you think it might be a valid strategy?
No, I think 2 tires are going to be guaranteed on both stops. I believe they're going to be able to get 2 tires for free. Maybe not on the second stop if they decide to split it up, but 2 tires should be free if they're taking near their fuel load. It's that second stop where we'll really start to see 4 tires. And if they absolutely stretch everything out, according to my notes from the league administrators, 4 tires could be free. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see who takes what for tires, but you will be seeing everybody take at least 2 tires on the stop.
Yeah, and I think that's for the best for these cars, but if they take 2 tires on this pit stop, you reckon they might take all 4 next stop? Because if they take left side tires, which I presume they would, if they take left sides both times, then they'll have really old left side or right side tires, but then the super fresh left side tires, and I reckon that might really throw the handling of the car for a loop. So I don't know what they'll do for the second stop here, but like we mentioned, it's the first hour and a half race in league history, so really experimental, and drivers going to be really experimenting with what strategies they can pull. As we look at Orlando Harrell, one of the open class contenders for the win today, he's running currently right behind Jerry DiPiero, and they are both about 6 seconds back from Ken Copeland as the leaders heading through Sunset Bend. John Allen really sending it around the outside. He got sideways there, sending it through that corner, and it looks like he'll go into the pits, and he and Ronnie Coates will go side by side into the pits, and he'll end up getting his nose out front before they get into the pits there. Eugenio Pulici going to go with him as well, and then it's back to Mike Dam and Camden Hibbett who retake the lead, and I reckon they'll have to pit this time by, as the pit window should close this lap, or maybe next lap, if they were able to stretch the fuel quite a bit, as Rui Coimbra and Ken Copeland there in 8th and 9th into the pits, Jerry DiPiero into the pits as well. So we'll see what happens. And now the big thing to look out for is if the drivers that pitted earlier, like Zach Burke and Mitchell Peak, will they match pace and get out with these with the leaders that came into the pits that time by. So we have to see if Zach Burke, who came into the pits but a lap ago, we'll see if he'll be able to maintain pace with Ronnie Coates, John Allen, and all of the others. As looks like he's already passed a lot of these drivers in the pit lane, so good undercut from him, but it looks like he's not going to be able to get up to Ronnie Coates. He'll get around John Allen and the like, but Ronnie Coates could not get, but Ronnie Coates was got a great pit stop there, and he's now 2 seconds ahead of Zach Burke. So currently the only real pack of cars that's together is the 4 leaders. Everybody else is really spread out throughout the field.
And we see Ronnie Coates has quite a sizable lead there over John Allen. When John Allen came out of the pits, now they're all kind of mixing together as this lead pack starts to reform after the pit stops. That leads me to believe John Allen took 4 tires. According to my notes, that 4 tires would be costing them 3 to 5 seconds. We also saw the same gap between Mitchell Peak and Ray Lombardi after their stop. Oh no, Ronnie Coates runs really wide there in the hairpin. That's not going to be good for his in lap, and it's going to bring Zach Burke right up to his bumper. I think Zach Burke's going to be the big winner in all this, actually, as they're making their 14th circuit around here. He's gained a lot of track position on virtue of people pitting in front of him and slipstreaming his way back up to the leader, and he's going to make a move for the lead here.
Yeah, it's for the provisional lead. Zach Burke going to easily get around Ronnie Coates. I think just cold brakes and cold tires affected him there into the hairpin, as Ronnie Coates getting used to the handling of the car after putting some tires on it now as they hit their tower. And really, Zach Burke has had probably the best race so far tonight. He has fastest lap, and he also had to recover his car after getting spun, or after going off early. And Mike Dam going to be the only car to try and stretch it out for a 15th lap. Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates, and Otis Adams Jr. all head into the pits right nose to nose there. As we now have to see where Zach Burke and Ronnie Coates end up in comparison to those 3 cars. Orlando Harrell, the last car in the open class to pit as well for the first time tonight. And now we have to see where Camden Hibbett, Otis Adams Jr., and Michael Coates end up compared to Ronnie Coates and Zach Burke. Here they are. They're heading down the back straightaway, the Allman straight towards Sunset Bend, and these drivers are fighting for this a little bit. This is Ray Lombardi, Mitchell Peak, and Ronnie Coates. Ray Lombardi, Eugenio Pulici, and Jordy Fike. I got all the wrong drivers there. So these 3 cars ended up in a pack after the pit stops, but doesn't look it looks like they might actually maintain pace with the cars that came into the pits that time by, as Zach Burke and Ronnie Coates get a massive jump on Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates, and Otis Adams Jr. All 3 of those drivers had a really slow pit stop, so that makes me wonder, Randall, you think they might have taken all 4 tires for their stops to be that slow?
That would be what I would guess, that these drivers have taken 4 tires, and we've seen the likes of Zach Burke as there. Camden Hibbett gets bit by that cold tire bug and has to take it to the grass around that apex and gets through there fine. He'll be okay now. Just needs to build a little bit of heat. Yes, I think you're right. I think we've seen some of these drivers take 4 tires, and some of the ones that are up front have only taken 2. Mike Dam, though, still yet to come into the pits. We'll see if Zach Burke is able to jump him as well, and he most certainly will if Mike Dam decides to take 4 tires.
Yeah, and it looks like the main pit lane delta for cars that have presumably taken 4 tires is about 51 seconds. So losing about 4 seconds for taking 4 tires, and we're looking at pit stop time here. This comparison for the cars towards the rear of the field. Sean Hayes at a 32-second pit stop, Andrew Kosick with a 27 one, Paulo Coimbra there with a 32-second pit stop, Lee Martin with a 33-second pit stop, Sean Ruiz with 28 seconds, and Charles Vaccaro with 33 seconds as well. So I reckon here comes Mike Dam into the pits, and I want to look at the pit stop time between second through probably 8th to see what happened there, and see the pit lane and see the pit stop time between those drivers. So I want to see if we can pull that up real fast. So yeah, so our producer going to see if he can figure that out for us. So, by the way, I want to say big congrats to Robert Schwenkler for being able to hang on thus far. He had to jump in here last night and take over the broadcast for tonight. So, big shout out to Robert Schwenkler, who's in our virtual production truck right now, for sticking with us here tonight and being able to let this broadcast happen. And there's the pit stop time we were looking for. And look at the difference between Mitchell Peak, Ronnie Coates, and Zach Burke versus Michael Coates, Camden Hibbett, and Otis Adams Jr. That's from about 26 seconds to 35 seconds, and that is almost a 10-second difference between those cars. It looks like Mike Dam didn't probably took the same amount of tires or just fuel compared to the likes of Zach Burke and Ronnie Coates, as he will rejoin the track side by side with Zach Burke for the lead, and it looks like he's going to lose it for the time being. Zach Burke, your new leader, after being knocked down to outside the top 10, he's currently leading the race as we approach the 40-minute mark. So looking at that pit stop time, I reckon that all those drivers behind these guys definitely did take tires. So I think when those tires start to come alive, they're going to really start to close the gap to these guys in front of them now, as those tires, they can really help on this abrasive surface. I know tires mean a lot, but that tires almost mean double as they would on a normal track with how abrasive and old the surface of Sebring International Raceway is. So tires mean almost twice as much as they did compared to other tracks we've been to on the calendar. So really, I think when those tires get really heated up and they start to fire up for those drivers, we might see Otis Adams Jr., Camden Hibbett, and Michael Coates really start to close that gap and make their way back up to the lead.
And I can confirm that Mike Dam did take 4 tires, so he was definitely struggling with cold tires when Zach Burke overtook him. And based on him stretching out for a 15th lap, I'm going to guess that he's just fine with Zach Burke taking that lead. He'll sit there in that slipstream and save more fuel, as he's actually fallen down to 3rd, now behind Ronnie Coates. That gap between the leaders up to 1.7 seconds. Mike Dam is just going to save fuel for the rest of this race, and he's going to make that second stop as short as possible. He may not even take 2 tires on that stop. It'll be so short, and he'll come out and probably have a very, very sizable lead over the rest of these lead pack.
Yeah, and as they head down the Ullman Straight, the still pretty much the entire pro class running for the lead can be measured just down the Ullman straightaway, but still, it's a long while for these drivers to get up to the lead cars. Michael Coates got a really nice jump on Camden Hibbett and Otis Adams Jr., who pitted with him. We're looking at Otis Adams Jr. and Camden Hibbett here, as Camden went a bit wide there. This is going to open the door for Otis Adams Jr. to make a move if he so chooses, but it looks like he's not going to for the time being, as Zach Burke has the lead by over a second now, after I think Mike Dam just couldn't get the tires fired up enough to keep up with him there, as Zach Burke is just flying around this track right now. He's almost on the pace of, per se, Max Verstappen in Formula One currently. He's really starting to extend that gap even on older tires.
We've seen him now. He got that 2:25.4. That was faster than the qualifying pole time. So we haven't seen much of Zach Burke this season, but we have seen has been a blur. He is blindingly fast. Track temperature starting to dip now as we're seeing the headlights on the cars really take effect. Down to 79 degrees. It's retaining heat pretty well, but I expect here in the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to see it down to 75 or lower as we take a look at Tom Athan getting the overtake done on Ken Copeland. Ken Copeland has a moment there coming out of the sunset, has to catch the car, gives Tom Athan that clean run there on the inside on the exit. He'll tuck back in behind Tom as they approach turn 1.
Yeah, and there's still a close battle going on for the open class lead right now as Tom Athan and Ken Copeland gonna fight for that pretty much to the end of the race. Here they are as they just headed out of the hairpin, and Orlando Harrell and Jerry DiPiero are not far behind him at all, only about 3.5 seconds back. And judging off the pit stops and how this race has gone, I reckon that gap can easily be made up if they are able to race hard enough for it. So Orlando Harrell and Jerry DiPiero are still very much in the fight for the open class win, as Tom Athan is still on the championship, but these drivers still going to be fighting as hard as they can to try and win this race in the open class, and that will be the case in the pro class as well once we see that lead pack start to draw closer and closer.
But right now, Mike Dam is in third, and that's going to be your driver to watch for the end of this race. He has 2 laps in hand over Ronnie Coates, 3 laps in hand over Zach Burke. That's how much shorter his pit stop is going to be compared to some of these drivers. Mitchell Peak behind him came in on lap 11, so he has 4 laps in hand over him. Right now, Lee Martin struggling back here in P19, trying to keep up with Brian Zabelski. They're going to try to close the gap there to Andrew Kosick. And we see Tom Athan now having to have a rear view mirror full of Ken Copeland, as we thought Ken was going to stick his nose out there and decided to bump draft instead, and get a very good look at the radiator there of Ken Copeland's MX-5.
Yeah, you really get to see how these engines are designed for these cars. You could see the serpentine belt, I thought. Maybe see the water pump, the alternator in there. You might see it again down this front straightaway as that little crooked front bumper of Ken Copeland starts to catch up, and he will push Tom Athan down this front straightaway. So Ken Copeland playing the smart game here, not trying to fight too hard for this spot, just trying to keep that car clean. Now he'll dip to the outside. He might have just gone a little bit wide there as Tom Athan ran a tighter line to the inside there. As we head back up towards this fight in the pro class, is Jordy Fike in the middle of this about 5-car pack here, stretching from Camden Hibbett down to Eugenio Polici. As Mike Dam starting to close the gap to Ronnie Coates up at the front of the field. He's got it under a second now. As if Mike Dam can catch up to Ronnie Coates, that could push them up towards Zach Burke up at the front of this field. So we have to see if Mike Dam can help Ronnie Coates with that. As with how long the straightaways are on this track, there aren't many straightaways on this track, but when you do get to straightaways at this track, they are usually pretty long, and you just got to sit there and think about the next corner. So I think if Mike Dam can get up to the rear bumper of Ronnie Coates, he might be able to push Ronnie Coates up to the rear bumper of Zach Burke.
They're not very far off the slipstream at all right now, and we see Jordy Fike really hanging on for dear life with Camden Hibbett here. Camden trying to close in on Michael Coates ahead. This lead pack been broke up quite a bit by this first pit stop. Right now, Rory Coimbers back in 11th is only 6.5 seconds off the tail end of what was the lead pack. So he was able to make up a little bit of time. He will definitely be having a shot at the top 10 as we see Ken Copeland making a move for the open class lead on Tom Athan, but Tom Athan's going to have the preferred line there on the approach to Le Mans and gets the spot right back, and I think this one is far from over.
Yeah, for sure, is Ken Copeland riding the back bumper of Tom Athan. Look how much Orlando Harrell closed the gap to Ken Copeland just off of that corner alone, where the two open class leaders were side by side. The gap went from about 3.5 seconds to under 2.5 seconds, and it will only close even more now as these two are going to fight for this open class lead even more into Sunset Bend. Tom Athan going to get the nice exit there, and he'll be able to get right back through to the lead as Ken Copeland sent it into Sunset Bend, wasn't able to make it stick, as these drivers start to fight harder and harder for the open class lead.
Ken Copeland playing some cowbell there, really exploring the studio space there in Sunset Bend. Simpson just absolutely as deep as he could before he got on the brakes, and then ran a little bit wide there on exit, giving Tom Athan the spot back. As we look now back at Paulo Coimbra, Lee Martin, and Brian Zabelski in a three-way fight back here for 18th position. And I tell you what, it's a long race, but the gloves are off here, even in the back of the field.
Yeah, and right now, if this were a normal race, we'd be on the white flag and we'd be watching Zach Burke cruise to an easy win. But now we're going to send him out for another 45 minutes. 2 races in one here we're getting. As we head back up to the front of the field, looks like Mike Dam is on the back bumper of Ronnie Coates now. So if Mike Dam wants to try and get back up to Zach Burke, he could help Ronnie Coates down these straightaways and push him once they get towards the straightaway. So the next one should be the Allman Straight. So we'll see what Mike Dam decides to do there. I reckon that if he's playing a smart game here, Mike Dam just trying to keep that car clean going for a championship, might not make a move into Sunset Bend, just try and hang out, push Ronnie Coates down these straightaways, try and draw them closer to the leaders. However, we'll see what happens now as they head through Le Mans down the back straightaway. We'll see what Mike Dam decides to do on the rear bumper. I think this is really the make or break moment for Ronnie Coates if these two drivers want to fight for the lead of the race. But looks like Mike Dam not be close enough to push nor he wasn't close enough to push nor make a move for the lead. So it looks like these two are just going to cruise through Sunset Bend, and Mike Dam might have to try and push him down this front straightaway, which I know I keep talking about him pushing him, but I think that would just be the optimal strategy for both of these drivers to try and catch back up to the lead, and it looks like that is what Mike Dam is going to plan to do here. No, he's going to try and make a move for it now. He'll head to the inside as they head towards turn number 1, and he'll be able to cut back and take a nice line through turn 1 at that as Ronnie Coates lets that by. Now we're looking at Ken Copeland right on the rear bumper of Tom Athan heading through Sunset Bend. It looks like didn't make a move there, might be realizing that the cars behind him are closing the gap, but no, he'll still try and make a move for the inside down the front straightaway. He'll have the outside through turn number 1. That's going to give the preferred line to Tom Athan here. We'll see what happens now.
They're going side by side. These two are absolutely just fencing back and forth every lap, going for it. There's still a lot of race to go, so if I'm the crew chief for either of these drivers, I'm telling them, hey guys, calm down. You still have a lot of time to go. Maybe save some fuel. The drivers behind are catching the more you fight. Orlando Harrell there is looming. J.D. Piero's fallen off a little bit, but he'll be back soon as they keep fighting like this.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, that's pretty much a big part of this series is fighting for spots, because as you fight more and more, you just start to lose more time to the cars behind you. So it looks like with Ken Copeland just really aggressive, really wants to get this lead, but that's just allowing Orlando Harrell and J.D. Pierre to draw closer to this front pack, and Tom Athan's going to go around through the hairpin.
Has forced to run wide through the hairpin and gets out there in the marbles and just doesn't have as much grip as he's used to and sends it around. Now Ken Copeland going to be the sole proprietor here at the front of the open class. We're going to watch this again. Watch as Ken Copeland makes the inside move. It's going to make Tom run wide, and he runs a little bit wider than he needs to, but he gets well past the racing line, and out there it's just full of marbles, and he just doesn't get any grip at all on the rear end, slides around and swaps ends with the front, and he sits there and waits for all the cars to go by before he rejoins.
It's very, very unfortunate for him, was having such a great race. As we're looking at Mike Dam, who trying to work with Ronnie Coates. They aren't catching up to the cars in front of him at the moment, but so far, it's been a great race for Tom Athan. It looks like just one little mistake through turn 7, and now he has to work his way back through the field to try and put himself back in the fight for the open class, and that might get rid of Orlando Harrell's draft to try and catch up to Ken Copeland for this lead. It looks like those cars are heading down the back straightaway right now, so it looks like Orlando Harrell might still be within draft range, but not as much as he probably would have hoped here, as Mike Dam and Ronnie Coates up here, they're continuing to start to lose time to the leader.
That lap was the first in a few that Mike Dam was slower than Zach Burke. He was about 7/10 slower. The lap before that, he was 2/10 faster, and the lap before that, he was a whole second faster as he closed up there onto the bumper of Ronnie Coates. That move to get P2 away from Ronnie cost him some time, so he gave up 7/10 of that back. But Mike Dam is absolutely flying now. He's got 4 freshies on there. We don't know exactly what Zach Burke has, but we suspect only 2, and that pace is really starting to show.
Yeah, and Zach Burke, he's just been on it all day long ever since being sent to the rear of the field, as Michael Coates and Mitchell Peak right with each other, and they're still 9.5 seconds back from Ronnie Coates ahead of him, so still these drivers up here, they're just on another, they're just in a different race right now after having taken 4 tires on that last stop. They're just in a different race at the moment, and they're just not able to just keep up with the other cars. As we look at Jerry DiPiero, who was right with Orlando Harrell and Ken Copeland, just looks like something might have happened to him, and now he's just under 5 seconds back behind, as Sean Hayes is there as well. So here's what might have happened to Jerry DiPiero. This is breaking into, I want to say, Collier, as he hits the curb there, taps the grass, and that counted as an off track, but it wasn't where he ended up spinning, if he did spin. So we're going to try and find that for you guys. Robert Schwenkler looking through the cameras to try and find that as we go back to live, and just Jared DiPiero, he was on fire in quali, and now he just can't show that same pace 52 minutes into this race.
And as we rejoin the battles up near the front of the pack, there is a notable name missing from these leaders, and that would be the likes of John Allen. John Allen came in for his pit stop and never left the pit lane, so I wonder if maybe he just decided it wasn't worth sticking around to play spoiler here. We saw some really strong moves out of him early on in the race. Never left the pit lane, has been sitting there ever since.
Yeah, and just unfortunate for him is I actually don't even know what happened to him. He was running really well. It looks like just all of a sudden just lost a bunch of time. So, or didn't even lose time. He's just out of the race now. So I'm not sure what happened to John Allen, but just sitting in the pits at the moment, which is pretty unfortunate for him. But that will give the competitors up the front a bit of an easier time trying to win the race. So it'll take one car out of contention tonight here from Sebring, and we'll see what happens as the race continues on for what is going to be an action-packed 37, I want to say, minutes left in this race.
You're right, and we're going to start seeing some of these drivers that pit early have to start thinking about coming to that pit lane. We're going to see Mike Dam probably stretch it out to lap 28, 29, possibly even lap 30. He's been really racy this second stint, so I don't think he's going to be saving as much fuel, and he hasn't had as much slipstream. So probably closer to lap 28 or 29. Don't think we'll see a 30th lap out of him before he pits for the second time. But right now, looking in a good position to gain that time back to Zach Berg on the pit stop.
Yeah, looks like they'll go side by side for second here, almost there through Bishop, as Mike Dam trying to stay ahead of Ronnie Coates right now. These two drivers, they haven't lost much time to Zach Burke since we last looked at them, but still they just aren't able to match the pace of the number 13 car. He's been absolutely on fire tonight. Is now pretty much at this point we're just waiting for the second round of pit stops, which should be coming up shortly here, as we're just under 5 minutes away from 30 minutes to go. So that should be the point where these drivers start to come into the pits once more, as we watch from above Zach Burke heading down the front straightaway.
Right now, still setting really good lap times, still easily in the 25s. You see barely in the 25s now, 25.9 that lap. You see Mike Dammit with a very similar time. Ronnie Coates, identical time to Mike Dammit, so they are not losing much time or any time at all, and definitely trying to work together. And then we see back, Mitchell Peak loses a spot to Mike Coates. Mike Coates is going to make the move down the front straightaway. They are much slower. They're in the 27s of this lap, and then the rest of the way down the lead pack you see in 26s. So these top three are absolutely flying compared to the rest of these guys.
Yeah, and it really just hasn't, it's just been clean race for these drivers back here so far. They're just starting to continuously lose time, so I don't think 4 tires was the right move there. Just still sitting in a pack all by themselves, just way disconnected from the leader. So I don't think 4 tires was the right call. Just maybe 2 tires would have been a better shot. But let's take a look at Orlando Harrell. This driver, he's shown speed in the open class all throughout the season, just hasn't gotten a race to really go his way, but so far he's having a great showing here from Sebring. 55 minutes into this race, almost 56 minutes. So Orlando Harrell with a really nice run tonight, keeping up with Ken Copeland, who is one of the fastest open drivers we've seen.
Again, it's been absolutely flying all season long. We've seen him punching well above his weight, but the fact that Orlando Harrell has closed that gap up shows that Orlando's got quite a bit of pace himself and wants to play spoiler here. Doesn't want Ken Copeland to have that victory lap on the last race of the season. Still lots of time to go. We'll see if he can bring the fight to Ken here at the end of the race.
Yeah, and really just bringing the fight is what a lot of these drivers are going to have to try and do here as we look at Orlando Harrell. He got a bit of a better line than Ken Copeland, I would say, through there. But still, he's just got to maintain pace here. He can make a move for the open class lead if he wants to. I reckon he definitely could as we see the brakes glowing. Great shot of the cars going through that corner. I think Orlando Harrell could make a move for the lead if he wants to, but I reckon just might want to sit here, take notes of what Ken Copeland is doing, and just try and maybe use that against him later in the race. As we head back up to the front of the field, Cameron Hibbett leads this pack. He'll try and go to the inside of Michael Coates, but perhaps more importantly, the overall leader of Zach Burke is into the pits to make his final pit stop of the night. So we'll see if any other pro class drivers choose to do the same. Looks like everybody going to stay out. Cameron Hibbett and Michael Coates side by side for this spot here. It looks like Cameron Hibbett going to get help from Mitchell Peak down the front straightaways ahead into turn number 1. Cameron Hibbett with his nose out in front. He's completely clear. So is Mitchell Peak. So Michael Coates having 2 cars just blow by him there. And we'll see if Zach Burke can maintain his lead once he gets out of the pit lane. So we'll see. Looks like very early pit stop, trying to just maybe make that second stint as short as possible before he gets out here for his third and final stint. He'll make about a 32-minute run to the checkered flag here. We'll see if anybody else can top what Zach Burke has brought to the table tonight.
Right now, these drivers really biding their time. We saw a bit of a fight there between Mike Coates and Camden Hibbett. That's resolved itself with Camden Hibbett in the lead. We're going to see some of these drivers dip into the pits at the end of this lap, I suspect. And then over the next couple laps, the rest of them will filter in. I'm really, really interested to see when Mike Dam comes into the pit lane. If he can stretch all the way out to lap 30, he's going to have so much time in hand compared to these other drivers. But with the way he's been racing, I think maybe lap 29 is when we'll see him. Ronnie Coates probably due at the end of this lap or the next as well.
Yeah, and really what we're looking for now is just raw pace out of a lot of these cars and a steady pit stop, especially for the cars back here in this pack from 3rd to 8th. It's insane to think that almost an hour into this race, we still have about 6 cars in this pack under a blanket for a podium position. So looks like we have a replay of Orlando Harrell getting around Ken Copeland, and I think Ken Copeland might have just gone back for that as we cut to replay, but it looks like Ken got a little loose out of that corner, and Orlando was able to swoop by on the inside through the bend and able to take the lead away. But I think just as we cut the replay there, Ken Copeland might have made a move back for the lead, and yes, he has. He's already taken it right away from Orlando Harrell, maybe just playing with his food here. But Orlando Harrell still showing a lot of pace and showing that he can hold a candle up to Ken Copeland.
Ken Copeland taking no prisoners tonight in the open class, has not let anybody get in front of him for very long before he immediately fights back. And that's a very good point, is that, we're seeing some action here in the pits as some of the leaders are coming in. It looks like Jordy Fike, Mitchell Peak, Ray Lombardi, Ronnie Coates is in the pit lane and now and in his stall. So seeing some of these leaders starting to pit. The second pit cycle is well underway. Oh, the big lip of the wall there for Camden Hibbett. They say if you don't touch the wall there, you're not really hitting the apex, and I hope he didn't do any damage to the car.
Doesn't look like it, but I just completely zoned out while you were talking. All I heard was just the sound of a car hitting the wall. Looks like Camden Hibbett able to maintain spots. There's Ronnie Coates, Mitchell Peak, Ray Lombardi, and Jordy Fike all into the pits, as well as Andrew Kosick. So we'll see where Ronnie Coates ends up compared to Zach Burke. So let's see if we can switch over to that fight. Is Zach Burke easily going to get ahead of Ronnie Coates? Maybe no. Ronnie Coates ahead of Zach Burke at the moment. This is exactly how it ended up last time, and Zach Burke was able to quickly take the provisional lead away from Ronnie Coates, but Ronnie once again ahead by a second and a half, and we'll see if Zach Burke can once again get around Ronnie Coates for the provisional lead. That battle is going on. currently through turn turn 6, excuse me, down towards the hairpin. So we'll see if maybe Zach Burke can retake the lead easily from Ronnie Coates, who Ronnie currently, I'm not sure where he is on track. I can't really see his number on the track map anywhere, but oh, never mind. We're looking at him right now. I am completely blind and I apologize. I was looking for numbers, not positions on the track map. So this fight heading towards the tower, completely my mistake there. I'm a little stupid. We'll just put that out there. Now we're looking at the numbers on the track map, so apologies for that. But Ronnie Coates maintaining pace with Zach Burke, not getting past as quickly as he did, but Zach Burke still with a lot of speed as we're over an hour into this race. We're in the final third of the night here from Sebring. And we'll see if Zach Burke can once again get around Ronnie Coates and back into the lead of this race as Mike Dam into the pits now. So we'll see if Mike Dam can maintain pace with those cars and try and get up back into the lead once he is out of the pit lane. So looks like Ronnie Coates and Zach Burke heading through Le Mans right now. So we'll see where they end up in comparison to Mike Dam, who has just stopped in his pit stall.
Mike Dam pitting a little bit earlier than I expected, probably thinking that he doesn't have much opportunity to save fuel while other drivers are out there, possibly on fresher tires, going to go ahead and make a reactive move to come into the pits, probably taking 2 tires and enough fuel for the rest of the race. I suspect he'll come out in front, though. We see Zach Burke has made a move here on Ronnie Coates in the sunset, gets the move done handily, and will now run down the front straightaway. We'll see if he comes out in front of Mike Dam or not. Mike Dam now in the pit exit. Hold on, this could be the race.
Yeah, Mike Dam out of the pits now, crosses the blue line. He's able to make turn 1. Zach Burke still comfortably behind him by about a second and a half. So Mike Dam within the lead, and that will make a Zach Burke sandwich here. So we'll see if Mike Dam can hold off Zach Burke and keep him from immediately storming away back into the lead of the pro class. And it looks like Mike Dam, he's already fired the tires up and he is flying currently as they head towards the hairpin.
Mike Dam with a pit stop that was 4 seconds quicker than Zach Burke and an identical time to Ronnie Coates. So both these drivers, both Ronnie Coates and Mike Dam, able to save about the same amount of fuel. Now should all be good to the end of the race. We have a 3-way fight for the lead, and we have another 3-way battle back here. Or sorry, up here now, as Camden Hibbett is your overall leader currently until he pits. 3-way fight for the overall lead until this pit cycle shakes itself out. We'll see where these 3 drivers come out, but they're going to be well behind our provisional leading 3.
Yes. Camden Hibbett leads this group. I think Camden is just hoping for a miracle at this point, as Mike Dam has had a flawless race so far, currently up in the provisional lead. So Camden Hibbett just has to hope and pray for something to go wrong with the number 93 team, but so far it's not looking like that's going to happen at all, as Michael Coates and Otis Adams Jr. ride in line behind him. I reckon they'll come into the pits this time, so they keep it nice and neat. I think that's no, they're going to stay out one more time. So these 3 leaders going to try and stay out, maybe just try. Actually, Randall, I have an idea. I think they were waiting for the tires to fire up until this moment. Now they're going to try and push as hard as they can, so that way they can stay out for a longer amount of time and maybe try and have a shorter pit stop to try and close back the gap to Mike Burke to try and close down the gap to Mike Dam and Zach Burke and company. As Ronnie Coates starting to lose touch with these cars in front of him, he'll need to pick up the pace if he wants to be in the fight for the overall lead. Once these pit stops cycle out, Rui Coimbra into the lead there in the number 78 car.
I'd say Camden Hibbett is on his 13th lap on that fuel tank. He may be even able to go for another lap. And you're absolutely right. They're running on a low fuel. They're setting absolutely blistering times right now compared to these 3. But right now, actually, Zach Burke, Ronnie Coates,
they
Mike Dam are all pretty quick. So I don't think this strategy is going to work out in Camden's favor. But the longer he stays out, the more chance that the cars behind will have issues with traffic. And he could get some clear of some traffic himself. So right now, it's just a waiting game to see if they come in at the end of this lap or try to go for one more.
Yeah, and Jared DiPiero was closing this gap to Orlando Harrell. And I wonder, I don't think these two cars have pitted yet, so Ken Copeland, not out of this race. It looks like he's just pitted before these other cars have.
I hate to
So,
break in here, Alex, but Zach Burke has gotten around Mike Dam for the provisional lead, so this race is far from over.
yeah, and now Mike Dam is going to have to really turn on the afterburners if he wants to keep himself and Ronnie Coates in contention for this win. He's going to have to really push and try and get back around Zach Burke in order to prevent Zach Burke from just walking away with this as we draw towards the final 20 minutes of this race. Here comes the current leaders down the back straightaway. Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates, and Otis Adams Jr. as they head into Sunset Bend. We'll see if they come into the pits or if they're going to try and stay out once more. So we'll see what happens. It looks like for the moment they're going to stay out one more time. And a really interesting strategy from these. So I thought they would have had to come into the pits by now. But we'll see what happens as Mike Dam now going to have to try and really he's going to have to try and push the heck out of his car and get back around Zach Burke. He doesn't have the advantage of Ronnie Coates pushing him, so it's just going to be all down to slipstream, down into Sunset Bend. He's going to need a really good exit through Sunset Bend if he wants to try and challenge Zach Burke for the lead of this race. He's still maintaining pace through some of the slower corners on this track, so definitely not out of it. Needs a nice run here if he wants to retake this lead and prevent Zach Burke from walking away. He got a really good exit. Mitchell Peak might have wrecked his car. He's into the pits already, but Mike Dam gonna push Zach Burke down the front straightaway rather than making a move here, as we have gotten word that Mitchell Peak has gotten involved in a crash, so we'll see if we can find out what happened to him as Eugenio Polici, Jerry DiPiero, and Paulo Coimbra all in the pits. Orlando Harrell decides to stick it out once more, but here's what happened to Mitchell Peak. He's riding in line with Jordy Fike and Ray Lombardi. This is through Lamar, turns the car into the corner, and it looks like he makes that corner pretty well, and he didn't wreck at all, actually. He just pulled the car over and reset to the pits, so might have had something to do, couldn't finish the race. Something could have gone on around him that he just couldn't finish the race, or he might have just been sick and tired and said, screw this, I'm done. But he hasn't disconnected from the session, and he's still in the session, so not sure what happened. But the race for the provisional lead getting more and more interesting as Mike Dam showing he still has the pace Zach Burke does and sticking a nose up to him through a tower at the moment. So we'll see if Mike Dam can maintain that gap now as the current leaders head down the Ullman Straight and towards Sunset Bend once more. We'll see if they come into the pits this time with just over 20 minutes remaining.
I expect they'll come in this time. And, you know, I was thinking about it. Camden has a really, really big brain inside of that young head of his. And I think he was doing some math, and that's why he stuck out here this long. He knows that if something happens to Mike Dam, that he has a really good shot to still win this championship. And he wanted to lead as many laps as possible to make sure that he got that bonus point for the most laps led instead of Mike Dam. So I think that's maybe why he decided to stick it out, as we see all three of those drivers come into the pits. I suspect we'll see Orlando Harrell as well. Jerry DiPiero had pit on the lap before, leaving him out there on an island. So we're now on board with Zach Burke, your provisional leader. We'll see where they come out. They should be easily ahead of Hibbett, Adams, and Coates.
Yeah, and Jerry DiPiero into the pits, and he's way ahead of Ken Copeland at the moment. Orlando Harrell, as well as the entire top four, into the pits this time by Michael Coates, gets the jump on all of them, and he's already on pit exit, and it looks like Otis Adams Jr. out of his stall as well. Camden Hibbett now out of his stall. Orlando Harrell still stationary in his box, so this will be the race for the open class lead as Jerry DiPiero heads through Sunset Bend. I don't think one lap will make enough of a difference for fuel, so we'll see if Orlando Harold can get the jump on Jerry DiPiero, but so far still stationary in his pit stall. He's been in there for about 42 seconds, so he'll be in there for about 10 more seconds, I reckon. Still stationary in his pit stall. Now he's out of his stall, and Jerry DiPiero going to easily come by to take the open class lead from him as they head into turn number 1. So we'll see if Orlando Harold can close this gap back down, but so far it's looking like an easy lead for Jerry DiPiero.
Jerry with a pit time that was 8.5 seconds faster than Ken Copeland and nearly 5.5 seconds faster than Orlando Harold. So keep your eye on Jerry. He may be running into some fuel trouble at the end of this race, but with an absolutely fast pit stop, Mike Dam showing his nose here to Zach Burke, letting him know, I haven't gone anywhere yet, buddy. We still got a few laps to go, and I'll be here at the end.
Yeah, and real quick before this fight for the overall lead to heat up, I'm going to get our one and only sponsor Reed out of the way, and that sponsor Reed is for Slow Motion Broadcasting. It's for us up here in the booth, and Slow Motion Broadcasting came to fruition by 2 iRacing League owners who found themselves wanting to provide a professional quality broadcast at a price that is approachable to any and all league owners. Big or small, SMB will work with your league to ensure all of your league's broadcasting needs are satisfied. Check them out at www.slowmotionbroadcasting.com. Once again, that is www.slowmotionbroadcasting.com.
This battle is right now. It's the calm before the storm. We're seeing who can push. They might be trying to feel each other out a little bit right now. That they're just trying to click off laps to get there at the end. We could see another 3 wide finish here out of these 3. Right now, Michael Coates leading that second group, now 4.5 seconds behind them, and that second group has become really spread out. Camden Hibbett had a really slow pit stop there, was not able to save much fuel at all, so ended up having to pack it completely full. It was nearly empty, running on fumes that last lap.
Yeah, so we'll see if he can end up getting that car back into racing shape. Is this battle for the overall lead really starting to heat up in the final 20 minutes? And I wonder if we could see something like we did in the real-life Sebring 12 hours from this year. For those who don't know, final 20 minutes going into turn 2, all the top 3 GTP cars wreck out of the race, so we'll see if something similar happens. Could happen with how hard the top 3 in the pro class are going to race for this win, I reckon. All 3 drivers, I definitely want this win really bad, and it's going to be a really, really good finish. We could see another 3-wide finish like we did last time through Sunset Bend with how that corner is. We just have to see what happens here in the closing laps of this race. We said about 36 lap. We said it's going to be about a 36 lap race, so coming to 6 to go this time by maybe, if my calculations are correct, and oftentimes they aren't, so could be very well anything, but we'll see what happens when they get back to the line.
So I think now looking at the notes, we have about 34 laps expected in this race. So we're on 5 to go now. So we might be able to see a 35th lap, but I doubt it with the pit stops. I think we're going to be doing 34. We have 5 to go now. I take that back. I think 36 might actually be the right number. I think we might have gotten some bad info from the league. If I look at some of my timing, it's estimating 36.2 laps. We could even see a 37th lap. So some of these drivers that had short pit stops might be in a little bit of fuel trouble at the end of this race.
Yeah, we just have to see what happens. These drivers all as the top 3 right on top of each other for this lead. Ronnie Coates starting to fall back just a little bit from the rest of the field as Mike Dam and Zach Burke continue to just have a dogfight for the lead of this race. This is an hour-and-a-half long chess match for these drivers, and it's all coming down to about a 15-minute chess match for the win of this race. As Jordy Fike, Eugenio Polici, and Ray Lombardi racing for P7 at the moment. Ray Lombardi currently leading them. Are on board with Jordy Fike, and now you can really see how much darker it's gotten since the start of this race. We were running at about just before sunset, late afternoon, when this race started, and now it's completely pitch black. A lot of these corners even more blinder than let me reword that, because I don't think blinder is a word. Even more blind than they already were in daytime conditions. So Ray Lombardi racing off his headlights right now and probably doing a bit of mirror driving to keep Jordy Fike behind him, as Jordy giving him a push down this straightaway on board into turn number 1. He'll keep it in 4th gear as he just slightly breaks into the first corner. Like, you don't have to turn that much with this corner. Drop it down into third gear. Just a slight bend to the left is now hard on the brakes for turn 2. Let's get another onboard lap going here in race conditions this time.
We see Ray really fighting for grip there coming through that corner. He has to really crank the wheel, and that's going to slow him down and heat up those tires. Track temperature has not dropped the way I expected it would. Still holding station at 79 degrees, so this concrete retaining the heat very well. We see him coming all the way up to that third cone before he gets on the brakes for the hairpin here. Gets a nice apex there. This perfect little apex there. Gets that right front wheel onto the apex curbing. He drives off through this quick chicane and down to the second tight right-hander. Not quite a hairpin, but still pretty tight, pretty slow. He's going to brake just before the 2 board there and get it turned in. Got a lot of grip there. Seems to be putting in a lot of hand input there to get the car to turn. So he's struggling with tires at the moment. But as we get to the end of this race, everybody's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and really, I mean, that's just what we're looking for, is who can maximize the amount of grip they have. Ray Lombardi doing a great job through the middle sectors of this racetrack, starting to pull away from Jordy Fike, but obviously using the slipstream. Jordy Fike just going to easily draw this gap back down as they head through Bishop. And Ray Lombardi, I mean, he's done a solid job all night. He hasn't shown he's shown a lot of pace in some tracks. Just he's been struggling all season. It's a really good, nice top 10 run for him so far tonight. We'll see if he can hang on to it down the Allman straightaway. And I mean, Jordy Fike, he's had the opportunity to make some moves. As we're gonna get it out of the way before the race for the lead really starts to pick up. We're going to give you guys the back marker salute tonight, and that honor is going to go to Sean Ruiz, who's currently a lap down, running in 21st place. So, Sean, you showed pace, but it just hasn't gone the way you would have liked, but we appreciate you for sticking around for pretty much 2 Spec-5 World Tour races here in the hour-and-a-half race this season. So, shout out to you, Sean Ruiz. We salute you.
Absolutely, bringing it home. We're going to work our way back out through the field. Charles Vaccaro, we've seen him have a couple incidents tonight. He's struggled a bit out here, but now he's made his way through the second stop and has been clicking off some nice, clean laps, bringing it home in 20th place. We'll jump up to Lee Martin in 19th. He was fighting quite a bit there with Sean Hayes, Brian Zabelski there earlier, and has now fallen off and is behind some of the open class drivers ahead of him. Paulo Coimbra from hashtag Not a Team, and I mentioned earlier there was a gap in the leaderboard as we lost John Allen from the race. There's another even bigger gap in the leaderboard in the form of Jose Gonzalez, one of the other Not a Team drivers. Jose fighting with some health issues, not able to join us, and we hope that we'll see him back on track soon as Paulo tries to track down Tom Athan. Tom Athan was fighting for the open class lead earlier and has now fallen off the pace. Had that spin there in the hairpin, fighting with Ken Copeland. Andy Kosick up ahead of him. We haven't seen him really all race. We haven't heard anything out of him. Had a very quiet race, now running 4th in the open class, 16th overall. Brian Zabelski ahead of him. We've seen him a few times fighting with some open class drivers. We saw him at pit with Sean Hayes. They haven't really been able to get anything done. Sean Hayes has not shown his typical pace this season, has had a pretty quiet race tonight. We'll hope to see him back up towards the front of the field next season.
Yeah, and up to Ken Copeland here in 13th, 3rd place in the open class right now. He's done a really solid job all night. Just lost out on that second pit stop here. He hasn't been able to recover since. He's still relatively close to Orlando Harrell and Jerry DiPiero, but I don't think he'll be able to fight for the lead. Orlando Harrell could have an opportunity to fight for the open class lead, though. Only just over 2 seconds back from Jerry DiPiero, who is your open class leader. Up ahead, just needs to cruise for the final 10 minutes of this race, and he will end up victorious in the final race of the season from Sebring. And I think something might have happened to Jordy Fike, as he is now out of the pack from Eugenio Pellicci and Ray Lombardi, and he's actually about 3.5 seconds away from them, running behind Rui Coimbra here in 10th place. So, I think something might happen to him as Rui Coimbra has been on a solid recovery race all night after that penalty, and he's got himself back inside the top 10. Great showing from him as we come up to Eugenio Polici, who has just had a lot of solid opportunities in races, just has not been able to get the results to show for it, and he's getting a really good result tonight there from 8th. Speaking of good results, Ray Lombardi getting a nice showing in the final race of the season here in 7th, and Orlando Harrell, we've gotten word that he has gone off track and he might have even crashed the car. So we'll see if we can find what happened to him. Here he is. This is into Sunset Bend. This is one of the trickiest corners on this track, probably the trickiest. And he's on the brakes, just taking it as you would. And oh, he heads over the bumps through the middle of it, and he gets sideways, and he ends up going all the way around. Hard contact with the inside tire barrier. Just didn't want to overcorrect there, and just didn't correct the car as much as he should have there. Unfortunate for him. That'll put him way out of contention for the open class lead, and that takes a lot of pressure off of Jerry DiPiero's shoulders.
We're now up to P6, Camden Hibbett. Camden still clawing and trying to get every position that he can at the end of this race to keep those championship hopes alive. It's going to take a big mistake or a big issue with Mike Dam for that to happen the way that they run now, but he's not giving up, and we've seen nothing but great stuff out of this kid all season long. Still, P6 at the end of the first endurance race for this league is pretty good. We jump to Otis Adams Jr., who's been very, very quietly up at the front of the top of the leaderboard, now in P5 as he's fighting now with Cam Hibbett. Otis had a really good race. We haven't heard too much out of him, and normally in an endurance race, if you don't talk about somebody a lot, they're going to have a good race. Up ahead of them in P4, Michael Coates as he makes his way through Sunset Bend on a bit of an island here. 7.5 seconds back from Ronnie Coates, 5.5 seconds ahead of Cam Hibbett and Otis Adams, just trying to bring it home. And then we see the big three still running nose to tail. Zach Burke, Mike Dam, Ronnie Coates. Ronnie had a really good pit strategy, was able to get to the front of this race very early on. We saw him flip a switch and just make his way to the lead. Mike Dam's been up here all night long challenging. We saw him stretch out that first fuel run all the way to 15 laps. Zach Burke was one of the first drivers to pit on that first pit, and he came out in the lead and kept that lead. Then after the second pit was in second and managed to wake his way up back to the lead, where he's been sitting out front for a few laps here. Mike Dam, Ronnie Coates just biding their time.
And looks like something must have happened to Paulo Coimbra here as we've got a replay of him. This is through Bishop. He's running behind Tom Athan there as they head through Bishop and now towards Lamar. And ooh, he might have just gotten on the wrong side of the curbs there. Yeah, he definitely did. And ooh, sends the rear end into the tire barrier, and he's able to rejoin the track without much issue. But it looks like that's a very easy mistake to make if you just dip 2 tires over that curb. It just whips the car around, and there's not much you can do about it if you hit it the wrong way. So unfortunate for Paulo Coimbra. He'll just be able to try and salvage a top 20 here, back there in 20th place. But as these 3 drivers head through Bishop now and towards Lamar, I think they'll take 2 to go at the line, maybe even 3 to go if they have enough time. I think it should be 2 laps. Actually, no, I think it will be 3 laps to go at the line for these drivers. So they'll have 3 more laps to decide who will come out victorious in the final race of the season. This is when Mike Dam needs to start considering a move, because if he waits too long, that could allow the Ronnie Coates to try and make a move. And if he doesn't go, and if he goes now, that'll open the door for Zach Burke to try and make a move to get back around him. So really, it's just a double-edged sword here for Mike Dam, because if he makes that move now, Zach Burke will definitely have a shot to get back around him. But say he waits to the last lap, you could see what we've seen so many times in this series. Drivers get impatient from 3rd or 4th, and they start to make moves towards the front of the field, and running side by side ends up making second lose contact with the leader. And it looks like Mike Dam is aware of that. He tried to peek out there. It looks like he's going to lip before turn number 2, and he'll try and bide his time even more.
With as early as Zach Burke pit, we really have to consider that he may be struggling for fuel here on this last stint. If they go to 37 laps, that's going to be exactly 14 laps, and we haven't seen a 14-lap stint out of him yet. So Mike Dam might be applying the pressure just to keep him from trying to save fuel. If Mike Dam isn't hurting for fuel at all, which he shouldn't be because he has 2 laps in hand, we see now he's making the inside move. He's going to easily get around Zach Burke. With those 2 laps in hand, he's going to be plenty fine on fuel. Ronnie Coates has 1 lap in hand over Zach Burke, so he should also be good on fuel. But we see Zach Burke now going to try to fight back, definitely not in fuel saving mode, so he thinks he's good until the end of the race. But we'll see here on this last lap if he's able to make it home.
Yeah, and Mike Dam going to take the lead back from Zach Burke for the first time in probably 6 or 7 laps here. So Mike Dam showing he still has the pace to fight with Zach Burke at the end of the race here, as I think they're going to take 2 to go from the line this time by, heading through Collier at the moment. And Tom Athan, it looks like, has left the race has come into the pits for good this time. Orlando Harrell heading back into the pit lane, so that'll put him back into 20th place, as Sean Ruiz should easily be able to get around him, as Jerry DiPiero and Ken Copeland might end up fighting for this open class win. Ken Copeland's been steadily closing the gap down between them. He's only about 1.2 seconds back, so he's in slipstream range. Obviously, he won't get it by much, but he will still get the benefit of the slipstream just a bit down the straightaways on this track. So we'll see if he can take advantage of that, and maybe, just maybe, he might be able to make a move for the open class win. So that'll provide a good fight there, as Ronnie Coates and Zach Burke side by side for second, if I'm not mistaken, through Sunset Bend, and they'll go side by side down the front straightaway as the lead cars take 2 laps to go. I think Zach Burke able to easily maintain that position down the front straightaway. Ronnie Coates might have let him go there, as maybe realizing they were just going to start to lose time to Mike Dam. So through turn 1 with 2 laps to go, this is where this race is really going to start to pick up. These drivers are going to be going for it all at this point.
Right now, we saw Zach Burke set a 2:27.1 that last lap. Mike Dam was on a 2:26.5. Ronnie Coates on a 2:26.8. We see Orlando Harrell struggling. He has to quickly get out of the way of the leaders as they're approaching, and manages to clear the track. And now I'm seeing Michael Coates may have crashed, a double crash. So maybe he's had some issues. We're seeing him drop down. There he goes, right down the leaderboard as he jumps to the pits. Mike Coates
Jerry DiPiero's into the pits. Wait, Jerry DiPiero's into the pit lane.
I said that earlier, that Jerry may be struggling with fuel, and that's exactly what's happened. This race is stretched out to lap 30. We're on lap 36, and they're going to have a 37th lap. Jerry needed fuel. He had to come in for a splash. He's going to hand that win to Ken Copeland.
Yeah, as long as Ken just keeps his car clean for about a lap and 3/4 for him, he'll end up with the win. But the leader, about a lap and a half to go, is Zach Burke. Gonna have to really consider when to make a move here. Looks like he lived it a little bit there, so he's gonna try and wait until the last possible second. And Mike Dam still leads this group of cars for the lead of the race. Ronnie Coates just still biding his time back there in third. Hasn't really tried to do anything so far, as he's just trying to get something done through turn. Actually, I'm not even sure what that corner number is, but through Le Mans now, as Mike Dam tries to hold off Zach Burke as they head down the Ullman Straight for the second to last time. Who's going to get it done from Sebring?
This might be a dress rehearsal for the last lap. We see Mike Dam getting very, very, very defensive there, but not defensive enough. Zach Burke says, "You're going to block the inside. I'm just going to go further inside." Mike Dam opens the entry back up and is going to have the outside line and probably the better run off the corner as they come to take the white flag. With 30 seconds left to go in the race, they're going to get that 37th lap in now. You see the flagman waving that white flag. Zach Burke leads him across the line. Mike Dam in second, Ronnie Coates in third, and this is a 3-way knife fight for the rest of this lap.
And it's all come down to this 2.5 minutes of straight racing for it. Mike Dam, even with Zach Berg on the outside, he made the outside stick. We haven't seen that work often in this race. Side by side into turn number 2, the inside line usually preferred here. Ronnie Coates just lost a lot of time trying to go for a better exit there. Zach Berg going to be able to maintain the lead through this corner. Mike Dam going to have another opening through the bend towards the hairpin. We'll see if he can get it done.
We got to watch very closely to see if any of these guys start suddenly slowing down, having issues with fuel. We haven't seen anybody else dip into the pit lane yet on this last lap, so they should be all good to go, or at least believe they have enough left. Zach Burke leads into the hairpin. Mike Dam is right there on his bumper, though.
Yeah, but Zach Burke got a really solid exit out of the hairpin. Mike Dam, he just needs to maintain this gap, just needs to keep it close in order to maybe make a move into Sunset Bend. I think that's where the final pass will ultimately end up happening, is into Sunset Bend on the last lap. I think that's probably where the move for the win is going to be done. That's what happened last time we raced here at Sebring in this series. I think it might happen again as they head towards Tower.
We saw Camden Hibbett jump out in front of Otis Adams there as they come across to take the white flag. Now probably in turn 1 gets that move done. Otis is not going to give up with these three. We're going to see another exciting finish here at Sebring.
Yeah, and into Bishop for the final time. Zach Burke leads, Mike Dam leads Ronnie Coates. Zach Burke has been the main favorite for the lead ever since the halfway mark. We'll see if he can hold Mike Dam off for one final time into Le Mans. We'll see who gets the better exit. It looks like Zach Burke got a really solid one. Mike Dam is going to need some help if he wants to maybe go for this. Zach Burke still with a solid gap about halfway down the straightaway. It looks like he's got the gap. I don't know if Mike Dam is close enough to get this done. He's got a push from Ronnie Coates. No, Ronnie Coates going to dive to the inside. That'll put them side by side through Sunset. What can Mike Dam do through this corner? He sends it in. He gets sideways. He's trying to keep it straight, but it's not going to be enough. Zach Burke is going to win at Sebring and what a finish it was. Mike Dam just lost second, and Ronnie Coates is going to finish second. Mike Dam in third, Camden Hibbett and Otis Adams Jr. fighting for it. Camden Hibbett almost hacks the tire barrier there, but he'll be able to hold off Otis Adams Jr. Otis Adams Jr., a solid night for him. He gets a top 5 from Sebring. Behind them, Eugenio Polici able to hold off Ray Lombardi and Ruben Coimbra. He needed that result there for his sake, and Ray Lombardi, same thing there. Jordy Fike just weaving down the front straightaway, having finished the race there in P9. And Ken Copeland, this has been one of the most dominating open class performances we have ever seen this season. What a race, what a drive, what a season for Ken Copeland. He locked up the championship that last race, but he will be able to celebrate it just the same. Ken Copeland is your open class champion. Sean Hayes in P11. And let's take a second to look at Mike Dam and recognize what he's done. Fantastic season from him. He's your overall and pro class champion here from Sebring, having just finished ahead of Camden Hibbett. He was able to lock it up, and he will end up winning the pro class championship. Jerry DiPiero coming across the line to take 14th. It was a solid night for him all race long, but ultimately he couldn't make it to the end on fuel. Lee Martin, great improvement from where he started. He ends up finishing 15th, and actually Andrew Cossack got gifted a free second place in the open class after having been able to make it to the end, and Jerry DiPiero wasn't able to, so good job from him. Paulo Coimbra will end up in 17th place after having made that mistake just a little bit ago, backing into the tire barrier. So he'll pull over just down the front straightaway and tow back to the pits as Sean Ruiz and Orlando Harrell across the line, and that concludes our race tonight. And Randall, what a race it was.
Absolutely. We saw those top 3 duking it out for all 90 minutes. We started with a massive lead pack. The first pit cycle really broke them up into 2 packs. And then that second pit cycle broke them up even further. We saw the 3 of Zach Burke, Ronnie Coates, Mike Dam absolutely nose to tail through that entire final stint. What a move out of Mike Dam. If you got to think, if he had made that stick That would have been an incredible run out of that corner. Got a little bit loose. Ronnie Coates had to check up to keep off of him. There was a little bit of a touch there, but Ronnie Coates, he manages to take second spot away from Mike Dam. Not a big deal for Mike Dam. Finishes ahead of Camden Hibbett. He had a 15-point lead coming into the night. That means he's going to be your champion, just like you said earlier.
Yeah, and let's see if we can take you through your results tonight from Sebring International Raceways. Everybody just navigates their cool down lap. Zach Burke dominated the race ever since the halfway point, and Mike Dam just wasn't able to get close enough on the final lap to make a move, and Zach Burke will win from Sebring International Raceway. Ronnie Coates steals the second place there after Mike Dam ended up getting sideways and having to correct the car in Sunset Bend on the final lap. So Ronnie Coates in second, Mike Dam third, Camden Hibbett, as close as he got, wasn't able to get anything done to Mike Dam, and so he will end up fourth and second in the points championship. And Mike Dam, your pro class champion, let's not forget that. Fantastic performance from him. As Eugenio Polici, absolutely solid result for the Italian driver. He needed this result just to prove to himself. He just hasn't had the best of seasons, so I reckon one spot short of the top five, but still, I reckon a sixth place will be a very, very will be a very happy result for the number 7 team. Ray Lombardi in seventh. The Dutch driver got a great finish here tonight from seventh place. Another good performance from him. Rui Coimbra starting 20th. He finishes 8th. So very, very good drive through the field from him tonight after an hour and a half of racing. Jordy Fike, solid top 10 there in ninth. Ken Copeland, he locked it up last race, but still, let's not forget that he is your open class champion. Fantastic performance this entire season from him. Sean Hayes is in 11th there. Brian Zabelski in 12th. Andrew Kosick stole a 13th there from Jerry DiPiero after Jerry had to pit for fuel late in the race. Jerry finishes 14th. Lee Martin is in 15th. Good improvement from him throughout the night. Charles Vaccaro is in 16th. Paulo Coimbra, after having a little bit of an incident, is in 17th. Sean Ruiz in 18th. A little bit further behind them, I think we start getting into some DNFs, as Michael Coates ended up finishing a lap down in 19th. So incident from him, he wasn't able to recover from that. He was having a solid day, so still very good drive from him. Orlando Harrell, he was in the fight for the lead of the open class, and then he just wrecked the car through Sunset Bend with only a few laps to go there. Unfortunate for him, but still solid performance from him all night. He finishes 20th. Tom Athan, pole started second in the open class about an hour and a half ago, just not able to maintain that spot. He finishes 21st, 3 laps down. Mitchell Peak wrecked the car a little bit ago. He finishes 22nd. Actually, no, never mind. I forgot. He didn't wreck the car. He just pulled over on the back straightaway and just left. So I'm not sure what happened to him. But Andrew Gilliland, it looks like we have reports from our producer that he did get sick. So hopefully he feels better soon. Unfortunate for him to be so deep in a race and then just unfortunately just health issues. But hopefully he'll be better soon. Andrew Gilliland, he wrecked out early and he'll finish 23rd. John Allen, same thing. He finishes 24th. And Brennan Horan looks like did not start the race. He finishes 25th. And just what a race we had witnessed. And just absolutely incredible. But looks like we are going to interview your open class champion. Randall, why don't you take him as we take in Ken Copeland?
Ken the Cat Copeland. I gotta say, only 10th place is kind of a low finish for you, as what we've been seeing this season. But you did come home with the open class win. Tell us about your race and how you were tracking down Jerry there at the end.
Yeah, race went as well as I could expect, I suppose. So I've been sick for about 3 days, give or take, and I learned Sebring in a day and a half. So I hated every inch of that track tonight. That being said, other than my initial off at the beginning, realizing how cold it was, race went fairly well. Before the first pit stop, got to chain in with Rui and just kind of follow him around and use that pace. I separated people separated from people. I think it was Tom and Jerry in the back behind me. Kind of messed up my initial pit stop, went a little over, so I lost Rui. Then it was just a battle the last half, and after the second pit stop, when I saw Jerry come out of the pits like 10 seconds ahead of me, I was completely confused and scratching my head thinking, what did I mess up in my planning? But it all kind of sorted itself out when he pulled in a little early.
So we saw you out there tonight being much more aggressive than we've seen you the rest of this season. Did knowing that you have the championship locked up kind of free you to pursue some passes that you would normally have waited and not try to attempt in the past? Because it seemed like tonight you were taking no prisoners. The second anybody tried to get around you, you were fighting right back.
Not necessarily. So my biggest thing is I just don't want to be the reason somebody else's race gets ruined. So my first incident, like what I would turn 4, turn 5, whatever it is, I was just glad that I was able to kind of shoot the gap and miss everybody. But really, I think it was a matter of there were no pros around me to latch onto for that kind of additional speed. And I felt like I was faster in certain spots than a lot of the people I was following. So it's one of those things where sitting there saving fuel's generally not my game. I want to try and get out in front of them, separate myself from them if I can. One of two things has to happen. I either need to pressure them until they make a mistake, or I want to get out in front and push pace so that they have to struggle to keep up. So that if a mistake comes out, I can separate myself. So that was really the game plan. I don't mind being aggressive as long as I can be aggressive safely.
Well, another impressive race out of you at the end of a very impressive season. I think we're going to see you up there in that pro class next season. So, for the last time, Ken, I'm going to ask you after your win here and your win of the championship, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with all the usuals, you guys, of course, starting it off, slow motion broadcasting has been amazing. It's been a huge benefit to all the people that want to support me, essentially, by watching races every Thursday. So, thank you so much for the broadcast. Y'all do an awesome job. Hope you find a way to continue doing it in the future. I want to thank all the Spec-5 admins, all the IRT guys, everybody that puts in all the extra hours to make this league happen. They do a wonderful job trying to keep everybody squared away. So, thanks to them as well. And then obviously everybody out there that supports me for some unknown reason. So my wife hanging out on the couch, Dana, thank you so much. Junior sleeping next to her. My friends Will and Tina who are watching, as well as their pets. Of course, there's got to be Lyndon. There's got to be Bear. Bunny's Bear. Bunnies. But yeah, everybody out there, thank you so much for watching. It's been a blast.
Well, congratulations on another win and on your victory for the season, bringing home that Open Championship. And maybe we'll see you up here again, this time with a red badge next to your name.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna see if I can go talk my wife into a massage.
And that was your open class winner and champion, Ken the Cat Copeland. And right now, I think, Alex, we have your P4 finisher and your runner up for the championship, Camden Hibbett.
Yeah, and Camden, what a season it was for you, friend. You end up just short of the championship. I know it's a little bit bittersweet, but how does it feel? In what I want to say, your second full time season, and you end up second in the championship standings. How does it feel?
Yeah, like you said, it's a little bit it's a little bit of mixed feelings. But huge congrats to Mike Dam. He was super fast all season. Even I told some of the guys I was on a call with during that race that even when he's doesn't have help, he's still just as fast as almost anybody with a draft. So he's been super fast all season, so he deserves it. Yeah, coming finished second last year in the championship also to Mitchell, and it sucks, but it is what it is. And I think we ran a pretty good season. Had just made a couple of stupid mistakes in the final two races, that ultimately cost us a championship. But it is what it is, and we'll come back swinging next season.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic drive throughout the season yourself. Next season, season 14, you reckon you might be able to hold up a candle to Mike Dam and maybe end up with the championship?
I hope so. I think I need to work on the pit strategy. I think that's ultimately what bit me tonight as well, and that's what cost me at VIR last week. And just need to figure out the pit stops, and but we'll figure that out and get to a good fuel number on each of these races and make sure I'm fighting in the lead pack on the final stop or on the final stint. And yeah, I think I put in a little bit more time during the week as well. I feel like I'm about every time I get in the session about a quarter second off, able to get it back in an hour practice or whatever. Um, but put a little bit more time in. I think we're gonna have a good shot next season.
Yeah, and one question I do have is for the first Spec-5 World Tour endurance race, how was it? I really enjoyed it up from the booth, but how was it down behind the wheel?
It was a lot of conversation. I was on a call with John Allen, who had a mistake that took him out, but we were working pit numbers and fuel numbers. It was a change. I don't know that I liked it or disliked it. I think the racing was, at least from my seat and my position, the racing was a little bit more spread out and more of an endurance kind of feel, unlike what we're used to. But it was a good change, and it brought a whole new level of brought a whole new aspect, sorry, to the league, and I think it was interesting to do it once a year, maybe as the finale or the season opener. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
All right, well, that's all I have for you tonight, my friends. Um, so, before we let you go, is there anybody you want to thank or give a shout out to for the final time this season?
Yeah, I gotta thank Buyers Automotive, Aussie Sales, Team Spirit Custom Trailers, Rainier Construction. They've been huge help starting to gain some funding and partnerships on the real life racing side. So huge thanks to those guys for helping me in my young career in real life as well. My mom and dad, my grandpa, I think my sister, if she's still awake, my sister's watching. So thank you to her as well, who's supported me for the last couple years in the racing stuff. And yeah, it's a great season, and can't wait to get going next year.
All right. Well, that's all I have for you tonight, my friends. So, congrats on the second place in the championship. I know it might be a little bittersweet, but still, great performance from you all season long. Hopefully, you can be just one spot better in the championship standings at the end of season 13. But congrats, my friend, and hopefully we'll see you full time next season.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast as always. Looking forward to talking next season, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That was Cannon Hibbett, your second place championship finisher. He was fourth place in the championship standings, and now Adam just wants to have a little chat with the admins here at the end of the season, so we'll leave him to do that.
So I apologize. Check, check. Oh, nope. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. I apologize for the terrible audio quality as I'm sitting here from a hotel room in New York, guys. But just wanted to throw it back for a second. 2020, beginning of 2021, Slow Motion Broadcasting decided, with Rob Schwenkler's help, we decided, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and start broadcasting. You know, I thought it would be a good time, be a lot of fun. Brendan Horan was in contact with me, and he's like, hey, we've got a league for you. So SMB started broadcasting Spec-5. It was the first league that SMB ever broadcasted, and I want to give a massive shout out to you, Jordy, especially all the work that you put in, working with me, Ray, with all the work, Mitchell, thank you so much, Andrew, all the Spec-5 admins for everything you guys have done to make this happen and make this possible from the Spec-5 side, as well as to make SMB try to get Spec-5's name out there. So really, I just wanted to give you guys a big shout out. Don't know where we're going to go from here. Obviously, I'm talking to you guys from a hotel room in New York, which is one of the reasons why SMB is going to be taking a bit of a break. But until then, it's not goodbye, guys. It's talk to you next time. And I just wanted to give you guys a big shout out and a big thank you for everything you've done for so much broadcasting.
Thank you.
It's us thanking you and all you guys have done for us, man. I mean, you extended such an donation towards our league this year to make this 13 season broadcast happen. That's a lot of work on your guys' part, and we appreciate it so much. There is so many people to thank here, because a lot of people don't even know Brennan and Greg Brockway, who were large parts of founding this league, and they've moved on to other things. But Brennan was definitely the guy that helped get things together with you guys and get this broadcast, and it makes a big difference. We have watch parties after every race. We all get back together and watch it. And we really enjoy that. And to Greg Mack, who was a large part of the founding of this league in the early days, as well as Mitch and Zach were all part of that team. Before I was even part of the team, before I was part of the league, those are the guys that really started Thursday night practices that became a league. And it was always quality over quantity. And I think that's really shown when we get people like, Mike Dam and John Allen and Zach Burke, where Hartley, and Mitchell and I. Mitchell's in that batch too, but I'm two-time champion in this league, and that's never going to happen again with the quality of drivers we've got around here now. It's just and that's what we wanted. I mean, and we got it, and we're happy to see it. We'd like to grow it next season, but we want to grow it a little bit at a time, and with people that add to it. We feel like we've had a great community, and you guys have really helped with that. The guys that are in the league race together in officials. They practice together, doing different stuff. They'll let each other know different things they're doing in real life, as well as sim and outside of life, and outside of racing rather. And that was really kind of what we were shooting for, and we're so happy to see it happen. I don't know if we got Andy and Lee mentioned as admins also that put a lot of work into the IRT, looking at the race over and over and again, trying to decide exactly whose fault that was, knowing that nobody's ever going to be happy with what you come up with.
Andy being our rules lawyer and scribe.
Yes, yeah. Ray does a lot of the pre-season polls and administration, a lot of spreadsheets, and Lee handles all the points. And like you said, Andy is our rules guy. We all look over it, but we kind of have a rules committee of one that really keeps an eye on things for us, and the rest of us, he brings things to us that he thinks should happen, and it's gone great. We have to thank everybody that drives here that makes this part of the league happen. Without the quality of the driving, this isn't 15-minute sprint races, crash them up and do it again. We ask people to drive as though it was your real car and you were really in it, and it was going to be your money and your pain if something bad happened. And that's hard to do in the sim world, to get people to not treat it like a game but like a sim. And we're really proud of how people drive in this league, and that's why every Thursday we just look forward to this so much. Of course, like I said, biggest thanks to SMB, to Adam, to Alex, to Randall, to Rob Schwinkler, and looking back to Dean Biggles, whose energy was
Oh, it's crazy to think the amount of people that we've gone through to get to this point, huh? But
I know I'm missing at least two good broadcasters in there somewhere. I just know I am.
There was a guy this season who filled in for a race, who was also very good. I'm not sure what his name was. I think the fourth or fifth race. That was all the guys that did it took time to help us and broadcast us and make us feel think we were important enough to be broadcasted. Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, you guys were important enough to be broadcasting, and it's really cool to see how you guys have grown. And I can't wait. Maybe I'll be racing with you guys. Maybe we'll be broadcasting it. Who knows? But can't wait to see where it grows from here. I don't see it going anywhere but up. So yeah, I just wanted to drag you guys all in here at least one final time and get it on air, and just give my biggest shout out to all of you guys. My biggest thanks to everybody that's been able to make all of this happen.
I'm going to leave one last open invitation out there to any track marketers or owners, marketing teams or owners, to any sim racing hardware owners. Great league. It's just kind of driver contributions that make this happen, besides the big contribution by SMB. Talk about a league that could really represent your track and your brand well, and we guarantee we'd add your track to the schedule, and we could even talk about where in the schedule. So just, tonight the race is broadcast live, but people will be watching this race somebody tell me how that in perpetuity, forever and ever and ever. And so as sim racing grows, and if anybody sees this and thinks we're the right fit and something they'd like to attach themselves to, we know a great broadcaster that would like to come back and do it. We just have to make it worth their while to make it happen. We really appreciate you guys doing all you did. It was above and beyond.
Rob, I think you had
Thanks, man.
That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
I guess that's a sign off, guys. Like I
It
said,
is.
it's not a. Is it like aloha? Is that what it is? See you guys soon. It's
See you soon.
You never
Exactly.
know. Yeah, we never know what's around the next corner, man. So hopefully all the pieces will fall into place, and we're gonna make this all happen again at some point.
I can tell you that I have enjoyed the hell out of commentating on this league, and I wish I was there. I wish I was there to race with you guys. And I like to quote one of my favorite movies. If you follow me in Discord, you've noticed that my avatar is Skeletor from the '80s Masters of the Universe movie. So I'm gonna get extra cheesy and quote that movie. We don't believe in goodbyes. We say good journey because we hope that we'll meet again someday. So good journey, guys.
Thanks, Randall.
Journey, guys.
Awesome, thanks.
Absolutely.
You're
Thank
welcome to race with us too, anytime.
And now we have some upcoming broadcasts to show to you. Tuesday at 8:45 p.m. Eastern on the 11th. It's going to be the GTP, LMP2, and GT3 from the Wrong Stuff Racing League as they take to the Daytona Road Course. That should be an action-packed race. And then about 25 minutes after that race starts, on the same channel, on a second stream, you will see my favorite league of all time, the American Muscle Series, taken to the track for their last doubleheader of the season from Mosport. 2 20-minute races should be absolutely incredible to watch as it's their penultimate round of this season. And yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Hey, I'm hoping that you guys can hear me, but listen, it can't be the season finale of a league on this channel if my PC doesn't restart doing it. And we completely forgot about the bet on when my PC was going to restart, but if you were to guess post race, you would have been correct because it just did on me, and then it had a seizure for about 5 minutes. But we're back. And Randall, I don't mean to steal the outro from you, but for one final time, this has been Slow Motion Broadcasting's coverage of Season 12 of Race 13 of the Spec-5 World Tour. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the broadcast booth by Randall McGrew with Robert Schwenkler in our virtual production truck. And thank you all so much for sticking with us through this entire season. We could not have done it without you guys or the Spec-5 World Tour League. So again, a massive shout out to them for allowing us to do what we love to do every Thursday night. And for one final time, thank you guys so much for watching and have a good night.
So Patrick, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You describe it. You describe it. I
What?
do enough talking.
Whatever. What? I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much. But I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to like make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up and nowhere. He's like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that
like,
was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
That was the guy from.
the power